The screech of metal on metal split the air as 7-year-old Lila Davenport tumbled toward the subway tracks, her pink backpack twisting in the fluorescent light. In that frozen moment, 100 people stood watching, phones out, mouths open, feet planted. Only one man moved. Ethan Cole, a broke single father with calloused hands and nothing left to lose, didn't think. He just jumped. What happened in the next 8 seconds would change everything and nearly destroy him for it. Stay until the end and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It hammered against the cracked window of Ethan Cole's studio apartment like it had a personal vendetta, each drop a reminder that the roof over his head, however leaky, however temporary, was about to disappear. Again. He stood at the kitchenette counter, which was really just a hot plate balanced on a fold-out table, spreading peanut butter across the last 2 slices of bread they had. One for him, one for Ben. Actually, both for Ben. He'd already decided. "Dad, you're not eating?" His son's voice cut through the percussion of rain and traffic below. Ben sat cross-legged on their shared mattress in the corner, his Batman pajamas 2 sizes too small, wrists poking out like little bird bones. "I had a big lunch at work," Ethan lied smoothly, wrapping the sandwich in a paper towel. The truth was, he'd been fired from his night shift mechanic job at Murphy's Auto Body 14 hours ago. No warning, no severance, just Tony Murphy's apologetic shrug and the words that had been following Ethan his entire adult life. "Business is slow, Cole. You understand." He understood, all right. He understood that men like him, men with repo notices and eviction warnings and child support battles they'd already lost, were always the first to go and the last to be remembered. "Come on, kiddo. We can't miss the train." Ethan grabbed Ben's backpack from the hook by the door, checking inside for the 3rd time. Homework folder, broken crayons. The stuffed elephant that had been Ben's since the hospital, back when Sarah was still around to hold them both. Sarah. The name still hurt like stepping on glass in the dark. Ben slipped his small hand into Ethan's as they descended 4 flights of stairs in the building that smelled perpetually of boiled cabbage and broken dreams. Mrs. Chen from 2C was arguing with her landlord again. The Ramirez twins were crying somewhere above them. The elevator had been broken since July, which was fine. Ethan didn't trust it anyway. Outside, the October wind cut through his jacket like it wasn't even there. He pulled Ben closer, shielding him from the rain with his own body, as they hurried toward the subway entrance on Morrison Street. The city moved around them in its usual chaos, cars honking, someone screaming about the end times, a hot dog vendor fighting with his umbrella. New York didn't stop for anyone's problems. It especially didn't stop for Ethan Cole's. The subway platform was packed with the evening rush. Ethan kept a firm grip on Ben's hand as they navigated through the crowd. Businessmen in expensive suits checking their phones, tourists consulting crumpled maps, a woman with grocery bags that kept bumping into people. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting everyone in a sickly yellow-green that made them all look half dead. "When's the train coming?" Ben asked, trying to see over the edge of the platform. "Back up, buddy, not too close." Ethan pulled him away from the yellow warning line. He'd heard too many stories, seen too many near misses. The subway was a hungry thing, and it didn't discriminate. "I'm hungry," Ben said quietly, looking up at him with Sarah's eyes, that particular shade of brown that could break your heart from 20 paces. "I know. We'll eat when we get home." Another lie. The sandwich would have to stretch until tomorrow. He'd hit up the food bank on Amsterdam if they still had his paperwork. If not, he'd figure something else out. He always did. A train thundered past on the opposite platform, heading uptown. The wind from its passage whipped trash and newspapers into small tornadoes. Ben pressed against Ethan's leg, and Ethan rested his hand on his son's shoulder, grounding them both. This was his life now. This was all it had been for 3 years since the accident, since Sarah's car had skidded on black ice and taken their future with it. Before that, they'd been whole. They'd been a family. Ethan had worked as a senior mechanic at a good shop. Sarah had been finishing her nursing degree. They'd had a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens with actual heat and a bathtub that didn't rust. Then one phone call had turned everything to ash. The grief had consumed him for months. He'd lost the good job, lost the apartment, nearly lost Ben to Sarah's parents, who'd argued in court that a mentally unstable, financially insolvent man couldn't provide proper care. He'd fought like hell to keep his son, won by a thread. But the victory had cost him everything else: lawyer fees, court costs, the respect of everyone who'd once called him friend. Now here he was, 34 years old and standing on a subway platform with $4 in his pocket and a kid who deserved so much better. "Excuse me, could you help me?" An elderly woman with a cane was trying to navigate through the crowd, a heavy suitcase bumping along beside her. "Yes, ma'am." Ethan moved automatically, years of his mother's teaching kicking in. He lifted her suitcase over a puddle and set it down gently beside her. "You got it from here?" "Bless you, young man." She smiled at him, and for just a second, Ethan remembered what it felt like to be someone's hero, even in something small. "Dad, look!" Ben was pointing at something down the platform. "That girl has the same backpack as Emma from school." Ethan followed his gaze. About 30 feet away, near one of the support columns, a little girl stood beside a woman in an expensive white coat. The woman was on her phone, completely absorbed, while the child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, gazed around with wide eyes, holding a stuffed rabbit. The girl's backpack was pink with unicorns. Ben's classmate Emma had the same one. It probably cost more than Ethan made in a week back when he still had a job. "That's nice, buddy." Ethan checked his watch. The downtown train was late. Story of his life. The platform was getting more crowded. A group of teenagers pushed past, laughing too loud. A man in a business suit jostled Ben, didn't even apologize. The woman with the grocery bags dropped an apple, and it rolled toward the tracks. She didn't notice. Ethan bent to pick it up, tapped her shoulder. "Ma'am, you dropped." That's when he heard it. The distant rumble. The sound that every subway veteran knew in their bones. The downtown train was coming. People surged forward instinctively, positioning themselves for the doors. Ethan pulled Ben back, keeping them a safe distance from the edge. Always a safe distance. Always careful. The rumble grew louder. That's when the screaming started. "Watch out!" "Oh my God! Somebody help her!" Time fractured into terrible clarity. The little girl with the pink backpack, the one who'd been standing with the woman in white, was at the edge of the platform. Not just at the edge. Falling. Her foot had slipped, or maybe someone had bumped her. It didn't matter because she was tilting forward, arms windmilling, eyes wide with terror. The woman in white spun around, hand reaching out, but she was too far away. Everyone was too far away. Except the girl wasn't too far from the edge anymore. She was past it. Her body twisted as gravity claimed her, and she dropped, one leg already over the side, her hands grasping at nothing, at air, at the empty space where solid ground should have been. The train was coming. Ethan could see its lights now, piercing through the tunnel darkness. Could hear the shriek of metal on metal as it barreled toward the station at 40 miles per hour. The girl's scream cut through everything, high and desperate and terrified. The sound a child makes when they know death is coming but don't understand why. 100 people stood frozen. Phones came up automatically, recording. Someone yelled for help. Someone else swore. The woman in white was running, heels clicking uselessly against concrete, her mouth open in a scream that couldn't reach fast enough. And Ethan moved. He didn't think. Thinking was for people with time, and there was no time. There was only the animal instinct that had kept humans alive for millennia, the same instinct that had made him dive into the rapids to pull Ben out when he was 4, that had made him grab the steering wheel when Sarah started to pass out at the wheel that last time. The instinct that said, "Someone's child is dying. Move." He dropped Ben's hand, heard his son shout, "Dad!" But the sound was already far away, already lost in the roar of the approaching train. Ethan's boots hit the platform in a dead sprint. 3 steps, 5, 7. The girl was screaming, dangling now, one hand clutching the platform edge, her legs kicking above the tracks. The rabbit fell from her grip, tumbling down into the darkness below. The train rounded the bend. Its horn blasted, a long, desperate wail. The conductor had seen her, was trying to brake, but physics didn't care. 70,000 pounds of steel didn't stop on a dime. Ethan didn't slow down. At the platform's edge, he dropped to his knees, momentum carrying him forward in a controlled slide. His left hand shot out, fingers closing around the back of the girl's coat. She was heavier than he expected, Or maybe adrenaline was lying to him about everything. Didn't matter, he pulled. But she was slipping. The coat was waterproof nylon, smooth under his grip. She was sliding through his fingers like water, like sand, like everything good in his life had always slid away. "I've got you," he shouted, but he wasn't sure if he did. The train was so close now he could feel the vibration in his teeth, could smell the ozone and brake dust, could see the conductor's horrified face through the windshield. Ethan made a choice. He went over. Not all the way. He wasn't suicidal, wasn't trying to be a martyr. But he swung his legs over the edge, braced his boots against the concrete lip of the platform, and twisted his body out into the space above the tracks. His right hand grabbed the girl's wrist. His left arm hooked around her entire torso, pulling her against his chest. She was crying, shaking so hard her teeth chattered, but she was solid, real, alive. The train's brakes screamed like damned souls, sparks flew from the wheels in great cascading showers. The horn blasted again and again and again. Ethan pulled, put every ounce of strength from years of turning wrenches and lifting engines into that one motion. His shoulders burned, his back spasmed, his fingers felt like they were breaking. The girl came up, inch by impossible inch. He got her waist above the platform edge, then her hips, then her legs, and then he threw her. Actually threw her, a desperate wild heave that sent her sprawling back onto the platform, into the crowd, into safety. The train was right there. Its headlights turned the world white. Ethan tried to pull himself up. His boots scrabbled against concrete. His hands reached for purchase. Someone was screaming his name, Ben, oh God, Ben, but his fingers couldn't find anything to grip. And the train was so close, and the wind was already tearing at him like invisible hands. Something grabbed his collar, then his shoulder, then his entire arm. Hands, multiple hands. The crowd that had been frozen was suddenly moving, pulling, hauling him up with desperate strength. A man in a security uniform, a woman with grocery bags, a teenager in a Yankees cap, all of them pulling together. Ethan's chest hit the platform edge, his hips, his legs. The train roared past, missing him by inches. The wind ripped at his face hard enough to hurt. Heat from the metal rails washed over him like opening an oven. For one terrible second, he smelled burning. His jacket, he realized distantly, had brushed against something. And then it was over. The train screamed to a stop 30 yards down the platform. The doors didn't open. The entire station had gone silent except for the mechanical wheeze of the brakes and someone sobbing. Ethan lay on the filthy concrete, gasping. His entire body was shaking. His hands had gone numb. His shoulder felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. "Dad! Dad!" Ben crashed into him, small arms wrapping around his neck with desperate strength. "You jumped! You jumped and I thought... "I'm okay." Ethan's voice came out like sandpaper. "I'm okay, buddy. I'm right here." He wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. But he was alive, and the little girl was alive, and sometimes that had to be enough. People were crowding around now, phones out, everyone talking at once. "Did you see that? He jumped right in. Holy shit, that was insane. Someone call 911. Is he crazy?" Ethan tried to sit up. His vision swam. Strong hands helped him, the security guard, name tag reading Marcus. "Easy, man, easy. Paramedics are coming." Marcus looked shaken, his dark skin ashen under the fluorescent lights. That was, Jesus Christ, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. "The girl." Ethan's mouth was dry. "Where's the girl?" "Right here." It was a woman's voice, sharp with shock. "Right here. She's right here." Ethan turned his head. The woman in the white coat was kneeling a few feet away, the little girl clutched in her arms. The child was crying hysterically, face buried in her mother's shoulder. But she was alive, breathing, safe. The woman looked up. Her face was striking, sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back, the kind of polished beauty that came from money and good genes. But right now she just looked terrified. Her hands were shaking as they clutched her daughter. "You..." She started, stopped, started again. "You saved her. You saved my baby." Ethan nodded, couldn't quite form words. His brain was still catching up to what his body had done. "Thank you." The woman's voice cracked. Thank you, oh God, thank you." Before Ethan could respond, before he could tell her it was fine, it was nothing. Anyone would have done it, even though they both knew that was a lie because he'd been the only one to move. A new voice cut through the chaos. NYPD, everyone back! Give him space! Two officers pushed through the crowd, a man and a woman, both looking grim. The male officer, tall, Latino, nameplate reading Rodriguez, knelt beside Ethan while his partner started crowd control. Sir, I'm Officer Rodriguez. Sir, are you injured? Can you tell me what happened? I'm fine. Ethan tried to stand. His legs had other ideas. Marcus caught him before he fell. The girl slipped. I grabbed her. You jumped onto the tracks. Rodriguez's tone was carefully neutral. Multiple witnesses saw you jump. Something cold settled in Ethan's stomach. She was falling. I pulled her back up. Some witnesses say you pushed her first. The world tilted. What? The word came out strangled. No, I didn't. She was already falling when I got there. Several people reported seeing you near the child before the incident. Rodriguez pulled out a notebook. Can you explain that? I wasn't near her. Ethan's voice rose. People were staring. I was with my son. We were waiting for the train. She started to fall, and He saved her. It was the woman in white standing now, the little girl still in her arms. Her voice cut through the platform like a blade. This man saved my daughter's life. What the hell are you doing? Ma'am, we need to establish what happened. Rodriguez didn't look at her. His eyes stayed on Ethan, measuring, judging. And Ethan knew that look. He'd seen it from landlords, from social workers, from Sarah's parents in the courtroom, from every person who'd ever looked at his thrift store clothes, and his calloused hands, and his too old face, and decided they knew exactly what kind of man he was. The kind of man who pushed little girls in front of trains. Officer, I'm telling you, Ethan started, but Rodriguez held up a hand. Sir, I need you to remain calm. We're going to sort this out. He spoke into his radio. Dispatch, this is Rodriguez. I need backup at the Morrison Street station. And get me video footage from platform cameras ASAP. Dad, what's happening? Ben's voice was small and scared. Why are the police here? It's okay, buddy. Ethan pulled his son close with his good arm. The other one was starting to really hurt now, a deep ache that suggested he'd done some damage. Everything's fine. Another lie. Nothing was fine. More officers arrived, someone from Transit Authority, a paramedic team with a stretcher. The platform had become a circus, and Ethan was the main attraction. Sir, we need you to come with us to answer some questions. Rodriguez's tone was firm now. Not quite arrest level, but heading that direction. Answer questions about what? I told you what happened. Multiple witnesses have given conflicting accounts. Until we can review the footage. There's footage? Ethan seized on that. Then look at it. It'll show you I didn't do anything wrong. The cameras on this platform have been malfunctioning. Rodriguez's face was stone. Maintenance hasn't gotten to them yet. So right now we have eyewitness testimony that conflicts. Some people say you saved her. Others say you caused the incident. That's insane. The woman in white stepped forward, still holding her daughter. I was right there. This man risked his life to save my child. You cannot possibly be suggesting, Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but we need to follow procedure. Rodriguez finally looked at her, and his expression shifted slightly. Recognition, maybe, or surprise. Ms. Davenport? Claire Davenport. The woman, Claire, lifted her chin. Yes, and I'm telling you, as the only person who was actually with my daughter when this happened, that this man is a hero, not a criminal. Your daughter was on her phone. The female officer, name tag Chen, had been interviewing bystanders. Multiple people said you weren't paying attention when the child wandered to the platform edge. Claire's face went pale, then red. How dare you? Ma'am, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm establishing facts. Chen's voice was gentler than Rodriguez's, but no less firm. Your daughter is 7 years old, correct? 8 next month, Claire said tightly. And yes, I was distracted for 30 seconds while taking an important call. But that doesn't change what happened. This man saved her. Some witnesses say he was standing near her before the incident, that he may have deliberately positioned himself. This is bullshit. The words exploded out of Ethan before he could stop them. Several people in the crowd gasped. Ben pressed harder against his side. I was nowhere near that kid until she started to fall. I was with my son the entire time. Sir, you need to calm down. Rodriguez's hand drifted toward his belt. Not to his gun, but close enough to make the threat clear. I am calm, but you're accusing me of what exactly? Attempted murder? Of a child? No one's accusing you of anything yet. Rodriguez pulled out handcuffs. But we need you to come to the station. Answer some questions. Let us sort this out properly. You're arresting me? Ethan couldn't breathe. You're actually arresting me. Not under arrest, just detained for questioning. What's the difference? The difference is I'm asking you to cooperate voluntarily. And if I don't, Rodriguez's silence was answer enough. Dad? Ben's voice was shaking. Dad, what's happening? It's okay, buddy. Ethan crouched down, ignoring the fire in his shoulder, and looked his son in the eyes. I need you to be brave for me, okay? I have to go with these officers for a little while, just to answer some questions. Then I'll come right back. You're leaving me? Ben's eyes were huge, terrified. The same look he'd had at Sarah's funeral when he'd asked where Mommy went and why she wasn't coming back. No, never. I'm never leaving you. Ethan pulled him close, breathing in the scent of cheap shampoo and little boy's sweat. I'll be back before bedtime, I promise. He had no idea if that was true. Sir, Rodriguez was losing patience. We need to go now. Wait, Claire stepped forward. I'll watch the boy while you're handling this. Ethan stared at her. You don't know me. I know you saved my daughter's life. Claire's voice was steady now, controlled. This was a woman used to making decisions and having them obeyed. I can certainly watch your son for a few hours. We'll be right here when you get back. Ma'am, that's not... Chen started, but Claire cut her off with a look that could have frozen the Hudson. Officer Chen, is it? I'm Claire Davenport, CEO of Davenport Innovations. I'm sure you're familiar with the company. The way she said it made clear it wasn't a question. My lawyers will be very interested to hear how the NYPD is treating the man who saved my daughter's life, particularly if anything unfortunate happens to his son while he's in your custody. The two officers exchanged glances. Rodriguez's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fine. But the boy stays here on the platform until we can arrange proper supervision. We'll have family services. No. Ethan's voice came out flat, hard. No family services. Not again. Rodriguez frowned. Again? It's not relevant. It was absolutely relevant. If family services showed up, if they started asking questions about living situations and employment status, they'd take Ben. They'd call Sarah's parents, and Ethan would spend months in court fighting to get his son back, if he won at all this time. Dad, I don't want you to go. Ben was crying now, fists twisting in Ethan's jacket. Ben, listen to me. Ethan gripped his shoulders. Remember what I told you? Remember what Mom used to say? Coal men don't quit. Ben's voice was barely a whisper. That's right. We don't quit. And we don't lie. So I'm telling you the truth right now. I'm going to answer these officers' questions. They're going to realize this is all a mistake, and I'm going to come back. Okay? Ben nodded, tears streaming down his face. Okay. Good boy. Ethan kissed his forehead, then stood. Looked at Claire Davenport. This woman he didn't know. This wealthy stranger with her designer coat and her traumatized daughter. Ma'am, I appreciate the offer, but your son will be safe. Claire's voice was quiet but iron strong. You have my word. I don't know you. I know, but you trusted your instincts when you jumped. Trust them now. It was insane. Absolutely insane. But Ethan looked into her eyes and saw something he recognized. The same desperate need to protect a child that had driven him over that platform edge. He looked at Ben. Buddy, I need you to stay with this nice lady for a little while. Can you do that for me? Ben looked at Claire, at her daughter who had stopped crying and was peering at him with red, puffy eyes, then back at Ethan. You promise you'll come back? I promise. Another lie. But this time, Ethan was going to fight like hell to make it true. Rodriguez stepped forward with the handcuffs. Sir, I need you to turn around. Is that necessary? Claire demanded. The man's cooperating. Procedure, ma'am? The metal was cold against Ethan's wrists. Click, click, the sound of freedom disappearing. As Rodriguez led him away, Ethan looked back at Ben. His son stood next to Claire Davenport and her daughter on the platform, looking small and lost and utterly terrified. The crowd was still watching, phones still recording. Someone was probably live streaming this. By tomorrow, Ethan would be viral. The crazy man who jumped in front of a train. Hero or villain, depending on which version people believed. The version people always believed about men like him was rarely the good one. They led him up the stairs, through the turnstiles, out into the rain. A patrol car waited at the curb, lights flashing. Rodriguez opened the back door. Watch your head. Watch your... Ethan ducked into the car. The seat was hard plastic, scarred with years of use. It smelled like vomit and disinfectant. The cage separated him from the officers in front. As the car pulled away from the curb, Ethan watched the subway entrance recede through the rain-streaked window. Somewhere down there, Ben was waiting, trusting that his father would come back. Ethan closed his eyes and prayed to a God he'd stopped believing in 3 years ago that he'd be able to keep that promise. The precinct was exactly what Ethan expected, fluorescent lights that were somehow too bright and too dim at the same time, linoleum floors that had been mopped 1,000 times but never actually got clean, and the pervasive smell of burnt coffee and human desperation. Rodriguez and Chen led him through a maze of desks where other officers barely looked up from their paperwork. At the back of the room, they opened a door to a small interview room. Gray walls, metal table bolted to the floor. 2 chairs on one side, one on the other, a camera in the corner with a blinking red light. Have a seat, Rodriguez pointed to the single chair. Ethan sat. His shoulder was really hurting now, a deep throb that suggested torn muscle at minimum. His shirt was still damp from the rain, or maybe from sweat. He couldn't tell anymore. Can I at least call someone? Ethan asked. Let them know where I am? Who would you call? Chen pulled out a notepad. The question hit harder than it should have. My son's social worker. Let her know Ben's being looked after. You have a social worker? Rodriguez's eyebrows rose. Why? None of your business. Sir, if you're involved with family services, that's relevant to what? Whether I push little girls in front of trains? Jesus Christ. Ethan's laugh was bitter. My wife died 3 years ago. Her parents tried to take custody of Ben. I won, but the court mandated regular check-ins with a social worker for the first year. We haven't needed her in months, but I figured someone should know Ben's not with me. Chen made notes. Rodriguez crossed his arms, leaning against the wall. Tell us what happened. From the beginning. So Ethan did. He explained the rain, the crowded platform, waiting for the train with Ben, seeing the little girl near the edge, the moment she started to fall, his decision to jump. He left nothing out. Told the truth completely, because the truth was all he had. When he finished, Rodriguez and Chen exchanged glances. That's it? Rodriguez asked. You just jumped? What else would I do? Most people would freeze or call for help. They wouldn't throw themselves in front of a moving train. Most people weren't standing close enough. Ethan's hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Look, I don't know what people are saying they saw, but I'm telling you what actually happened. The kid slipped. I grabbed her. End of story. Multiple witnesses place you near the child before the incident. Chen consulted her notes. A woman named Patricia Hendricks says she saw you standing directly behind the girl for several minutes before she fell. That's not true. I was nowhere near her. A Mr. David Yates corroborates Hendricks's statement, says you were lurking near the child. Lurking? I wasn't... Ethan forced himself to breathe. Getting angry wouldn't help. I was with my son the entire time. We were at least 20 feet away from that girl. Can anyone confirm that? Ben can. Your 7-year-old son. Rodriguez's skepticism was clear. Any other witnesses who might be less biased? Ethan thought frantically. The elderly woman with the suitcase, the man in the business suit who'd bumped Ben, the woman with the grocery bags. There were people around us. I helped an old lady with her luggage. Someone bumped into Ben. I gave a lady her dropped apple. Can you identify any of these people? No, I don't know their names. Convenient. It's not convenient, it's just what happened. People don't introduce themselves on subway platforms. Mr. Cole, I'm going to be straight with you. Rodriguez leaned forward. Right now, this doesn't look good. You're unemployed, correct? How did you your wallet? Rodriguez held up Ethan's worn leather billfold. They must have taken it while he was in the car. No credit cards, $4 cash, an EBT card, no employment ID. Your address is listed as... He trailed off, checking a piece of paper. Currently homeless? Chen finished. The landlord at your listed address says you were evicted 2 months ago for non-payment. Ethan's face burned. I'm between places. But that has nothing to do with... It has everything to do with it. Rodriguez's voice was hard now. You're broke. Desperate. Maybe you saw a well-dressed woman and her daughter, thought you could stage a rescue, play the hero, get some reward money. Maybe it went wrong. Maybe you pushed too hard and the kid actually fell. That's insane. Is it? You have a history of financial problems, multiple evictions. Your wife's parents filed for emergency custody, citing your inability to provide a stable home environment. They lost that case, but they filed it, which means there were concerns about your fitness as a parent. Ethan wanted to scream, wanted to flip the table, wanted to do anything except sit there and take this character assassination like he'd taken every other humiliation in his life. Instead, he took a breath and said, Am I under arrest? Not yet. Then I want to leave. You're free to go any time. Rodriguez smiled without humor. But if you walk out now before we finish our investigation, that's going to look suspicious. Might make us think you have something to hide. I don't have anything to hide. I told you what happened. Then sit here and wait while we review the evidence. Shouldn't take more than a few hours. A few hours. Ben was waiting. Claire Davenport, a woman he'd met 10 minutes ago, was the only thing standing between his son and the foster care system. Fine. Ethan slumped in the chair. I'll wait. Smart choice. Rodriguez moved toward the door. Someone will bring you water. Don't touch anything. They left him alone in the room. Ethan stared at the camera in the corner, its red light blinking like a malevolent eye. Somewhere in this building, someone was probably watching him right now, analyzing his body language, looking for tells, deciding whether he was a hero or a monster. His shoulder throbbed in time with his heartbeat. He needed medical attention. There was probably ligament damage, maybe worse, but he didn't ask. Showing weakness in a place like this was a mistake. Time moved like molasses. The clock on the wall ticked with agonizing slowness. 5 minutes. 10. 30. His mind wouldn't stop spinning. What was Ben doing right now? Was he scared? Claire Davenport had seemed sincere, but Ethan didn't know her. Didn't know if she'd keep Ben safe or if she'd already called family services herself. Rich people love to call authorities on poor people. Made them feel virtuous. An hour passed. Ethan's stomach growled. He'd given Ben the last of their food. There was nothing at home, no home to go back to anyway, really, just a room with a broken lock and a mattress on the floor. How had his life become this? He'd been a good student, not great, but decent. Had gotten into a trade school program, learned mechanics because he was good with his hands and liked solving problems. Had met Sarah at a friend's barbecue and fallen in love with her laugh, with the way she saw good in everyone. They'd been happy. For a while, they'd been so damn happy. Then the ice, the car, the phone call that split his life into before and after. The grief had been bad enough, but the aftermath had been worse. Sarah's parents had blamed him. Why weren't you driving? Why didn't you stop her? As if he could have known. As if anyone could have prevented black ice on a highway at 2 a.m. They'd tried to take Ben, hired expensive lawyers, dragged every mistake Ethan had ever made into court. The month he'd been late on rent because Ben had needed emergency dental work. The time he'd been fired for getting into an argument with a customer who'd used a racial slur. The depression that had required medication he couldn't afford. They'd painted him as unstable, unfit, a danger to his own son. The judge had disagreed, thank God, had seen through their classist bullshit and recognized a father fighting for his child. But the damage was done. Ethan's reputation was destroyed. His employer at the time had let him go. Word got around, Cole's got problems, better not risk it. He'd been digging out of that hole ever since, taking any job that would have him, sleeping in his car when necessary, making sure Ben always had food, even if Ethan didn't, staying strong because someone had to. And now this. Now he'd done the right thing, had literally risked his life to save a child, and was being treated like a criminal because he had the wrong kind of face, the wrong kind of address, the wrong kind of life. The door opened. Rodriguez came back in, followed by Chen and a third person, a man in an expensive suit with gray at his temples and the air of someone used to being obeyed. "Mr. Cole," the man said, sitting across from him, "I'm Detective Morrison. I've been reviewing your case." "It's not a case," Ethan said tiredly. "It's a misunderstanding." "Perhaps." Morrison opened a folder. "We've been trying to access the platform camera footage. Unfortunately, the system has been down for maintenance for the past week." Ethan's heart sank. "So there's no video?" "Oh, there's video, just not from the platform cameras." Morrison turned a laptop around so Ethan could see the screen. "Turns out about 15 people in that station were recording with their phones. We've collected several videos. Would you like to see what they show?" Hope sparked in Ethan's chest. "Yes. God, yes. Play it." Morrison hit play. The video was shaky, someone filming from about 20 feet away. But it showed the platform, showed the crowd, showed the little girl at the edge, showed Ethan running, showed him dropping to the platform, showed his desperate grab, the train approaching, the moment he went over the edge, showed him being pulled back up. The video ended. "That," Ethan's voice cracked, "that shows exactly what I said. I saved her. I didn't push her." "That video shows you pulling her up, yes." Morrison closed the laptop. "Unfortunately, it doesn't show the moments before, doesn't show what made her fall in the first place." "She slipped. Her foot." "Mr. Cole, here's my problem." Morrison leaned back in his chair. "I have you on camera pulling that girl to safety. I also have 2 witnesses who swear they saw you near the child before the incident. And I have a man with no job, no home, and a history of financial desperation performing a very public rescue of a wealthy woman's daughter. You think I staged this?" Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You think I pushed a kid in front of a train so I could save her and get a reward?" "I think it's a possibility we have to consider." "That's insane." "Is it? We see scams like this all the time. Someone creates a dangerous situation, then solves it. Looks like a hero, gets a reward, maybe a job, definitely some good press. Usually it's smaller scale, finding a lost wallet, preventing a theft that was never going to happen. But occasionally people get ambitious." "I'm not ambitious, I'm broke. There's a difference." Ethan was on his feet now, hands slamming on the table. "That kid was dying. I didn't think about rewards or press or anything except saving her life. Sit down, Mr. Cole. No, you're accusing me of attempted murder, of putting a child in danger for money. How do you expect me to sit down?" "Mr. Cole, sit down, or I will arrest you for interfering with an investigation." Ethan sat. His hands were shaking so hard he had to clench them into fists. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said quietly. "I saved a little girl's life, that's all. That's the only thing that happened." Morrison studied him for a long moment. Then he stood. "We're going to hold you for a few more hours while we continue gathering evidence. If your story checks out, you'll be free to go. And if it doesn't, then we'll be having a very different conversation." They left him alone again. Ethan put his head in his hands. His shoulder was screaming now, the pain radiating down his arm. His shirt was stuck to his back with sweat. His throat was dry. And somewhere out there, Ben was waiting for a father who might not come back. 2 more hours crawled by. Finally, the door opened again. Rodriguez stood there. His expression was unreadable. "You're free to go." Ethan blinked. "What?" "We found additional footage. Shows the girl's mother distracted on her phone. Shows the girl wandering toward the edge on her own. Shows you approximately 20 feet away with your son when she started to fall. Rodriguez's jaw was tight. Shows everything exactly as you said. Relief hit Ethan like a physical force. He sagged in the chair, suddenly boneless. The witnesses who claimed you were near the girl were mistaken, Rodriguez continued. They were looking at someone else, or they just wanted to be part of the story. Either way, their statements don't hold up against video evidence. So I can leave? Right now? Right now. Rodriguez pulled out a plastic bag with Ethan's belongings, wallet, keys, phone. But before you go, I need to say something. Here it comes, Ethan thought. The speech about how he should have called for help instead, how he put himself in danger unnecessarily, how he's lucky the train didn't kill him. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen, Rodriguez said quietly. Stupidest, too. But brave. You saved that kid's life. Ethan didn't know what to say. I'm sorry we had to put you through this. Rodriguez met his eyes. But given the initial reports, we had to investigate. You understand? No. Ethan's voice was flat. I don't understand. I understand that you saw a poor man and immediately assumed the worst. I understand that if I'd been wearing a suit instead of a thrift store jacket, none of this would have happened. But fine. Whatever. I'm free to go, so I'm going. He pushed past Rodriguez out of the interview room through the maze of desks. An officer called after him. Sir, you need to sign. Mail it to me, Ethan called back without stopping. Outside, the rain had finally stopped. The city sparkled with reflected lights, puddles turning the streets into mirrors. Ethan stood on the precinct steps, breathing in air that didn't smell like fear and institutions. His phone buzzed. 7 missed calls from a number he didn't recognize. Probably Claire Davenport. He called it back. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Cole? Where's my son? Safe. We're at a cafe near the station. He's eating pizza and teaching Lila about Batman. When can you come get him? Now, I'm on my way. Mr. Cole, Ethan, I am so deeply sorry for everything. What happened to you is unconscionable. Is Ben okay? He's fine. Worried about you, but fine. Then that's all that matters. He hung up and started walking. 30 blocks to Morrison Street. Would take an hour on foot, but he didn't have money for a cab, and the thought of going back underground made his skin crawl. So he walked, through streets that smelled like garbage and expensive perfume, past restaurants where people ate meals that cost more than Ethan made in a day, past homeless people in doorways who nodded at him in solidarity. They recognized their own. His shoulder hurt, his feet hurt. Everything hurt, but Ben was safe. That was all that mattered. When Ethan finally reached the cafe, a bright, cheerful place called Sweet Bean, he spotted them immediately through the window. Ben and Lila sat at a corner table, drawing on napkins. Claire Davenport sat across from them, phone in hand, but her attention was on the children. Ethan pushed through the door. A bell chimed. Ben looked up. Their eyes met. Dad! Ben launched himself across the cafe, crashing into Ethan hard enough to hurt. You came back! You came back! Of course I came back. Ethan dropped to his knees, ignoring the pain, and held his son tight. I promised, didn't I? Cole men don't break promises. You were gone so long. I was scared. I know, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Claire approached slowly, giving them space. Mr. Cole, I'm glad you're all right. Ethan stood, keeping one hand on Ben's shoulder. Thank you for watching him. It was the least I could do. Claire's expression was serious. I spoke with my lawyers while you were detained. What the police did to you was completely inappropriate. If you want to file a complaint, I don't want to file anything. I just want to take my son and go home. Of course, Claire hesitated. But there's something I need to say first. What you did, saving Lila. I can never repay that, but I'd like to try. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything. My daughter is alive because of you. Lila had come over, holding her mother's hand. She looked up at Ethan with huge eyes. Thank you for catching me, she said softly. Ethan crouched down to her level. You're welcome, sweetheart. Next time you're near train tracks, hold someone's hand, okay? She nodded seriously. Okay. Claire pulled out a business card. This is my personal number, not my assistant, not my secretary, me. If you ever need anything, a job, a place to stay, help with bills, anything, you call me. Understood?" Ethan looked at the card. Expensive paper, embossed lettering. Claire Davenport, CEO, Davenport Innovations. A midtown address that probably cost more per month than Ethan had made in his entire life. He almost didn't take it. Pride was about all he had left. But then he thought of Ben, of the eviction notice, of the empty pantry, of all the times he'd let pride keep him from accepting help he desperately needed. He took the card. "Thank you," he said. "Truly. Thank you, Ethan. You're a good man." As they left the cafe, Ben chattered about the pizza and Lila and how he'd taught her the difference between Batman and Superman. Ethan listened with half his attention, the other half on the business card in his pocket. Claire Davenport, CEO. A woman with the kind of power that could change lives. His life. Maybe. They walked home through streets that had started to gleam with possibility. For the first time in 3 years, Ethan let himself hope that tomorrow might be different, that tomorrow might be better. Because today, he'd been a hero. And maybe, just maybe, that counted for something after all. The apartment looked worse in daylight than it had in the dark. Water stains mapped the ceiling like continents on a dying world. The single window overlooked a brick wall 3 feet away. The radiator clanked but produced no heat. And the eviction notice was still taped to the door, bright orange and impossible to ignore. Ethan peeled it off as they entered, crumpling it in his fist. 3 days. That's what the notice said. 3 days to come up with 2 months back rent plus late fees, or they were out on the street. "I'm hungry, Dad." Ben dropped his backpack by the mattress and looked at Ethan with hope that hurt to see. "I know, buddy. Let me see what we've got." Ethan opened the mini fridge that hummed ominously in the corner. A bottle of ketchup. Half a gallon of milk that was probably questionable. An apple that had seen better days. He grabbed the apple, rinsed it in the rust-stained sink, and cut away the brown spots. 3 slices for Ben. 1 for him, even though his stomach was eating itself. "Tomorrow I'll hit the food bank," Ethan said, handing Ben the plate. "Get us some real groceries. Can we get peanut butter?" "Yeah, and bread. Maybe some of those fruit cups you like." Ben ate slowly, savoring each bite. Ethan forced himself to chew the mealy apple and pretend it was enough. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hello? Mr. Cole? This is Jennifer Martinez from Channel 7 News. I'm calling about the incident at Morrison Street Station. We'd love to interview you for—" Ethan hung up. The phone buzzed again immediately. Different number. "Mr. Cole, this is David Chen from the Daily News. Our readers would be very interested in your story. There might be compensation for—" He hung up again, turned the phone off completely. "Who is that?" Ben asked through a mouthful of apple. "Nobody important." But the calls kept coming over the next 2 days. Reporters left voicemails. News vans showed up outside the building. Someone had posted the subway video online, and it had gone viral. 10 million views, 20 million, 50 million. Ethan's face was everywhere, frozen in that moment of desperate courage, the train bearing down as he pulled Lila to safety. The comments section was a war zone. "This man is a hero!" "Looks homeless. Probably staged it for money. I would have done the same thing." "No, you wouldn't have. Nobody moved but him." "Why was he so close to the kid in the first place, sis? Y'all will really find any reason to doubt a good deed, huh?" Ethan didn't read them. Didn't watch the interviews Claire Davenport gave, praising him to the heavens. Didn't respond to the GoFundMe someone had started in his name that had already raised $40,000. He didn't want money. Didn't want fame. He wanted to be invisible again. But the world wasn't letting him disappear. On the 3rd day, when Ethan returned from a failed job interview at a warehouse in Queens, he found his landlord waiting in the hallway. Mr. Volkov was a thick man with a face like spoiled meat and the soul to match. "Cole." Volkov's accent turned his name into something vaguely threatening. "You have rent?" "Not yet, but I'm working on—" 3 days, notice said. Today is 3 days. "I know, I just need a few more—" "No more days, you go, now." Volkov pulled out a key. "I have new tenant, they pay. You don't pay. Simple." "We've got nowhere to go." Ethan's voice stayed level through sheer force of will. Just give me 1 more week. I'll get the money. You say this before, many times. No more weeks. Volkov unlocked the door. You pack. 1 hour. Then I call police. You can't just throw us out. There are laws. Laws? Volkov laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You want to talk about laws? You have lease. Lease says you pay rent. You don't pay rent. Law is on my side, not yours. He was right. Ethan knew he was right. In a city that ate the poor and shit out the bones, landlords always won. Please. Ethan hated the word even as he said it, hated the begging tone. But Ben was inside, probably doing homework on the floor because they didn't have a table. My son, your son is not my problem. You want son to have home? You pay rent. Simple. Volkov checked his watch. 55 minutes now. You waste time talking. Inside the apartment, Ethan stood in the middle of the room and tried to figure out how his life had come to this. 3 days ago, he'd been a hero. Millions of people had watched him risk everything, and now he was being evicted anyway, because viral videos didn't pay the rent, and good deeds didn't keep the lights on. Dad? Ben looked up from his math worksheet. Why is Mr. Volkov here? We need to pack, buddy. Pack? Why? We're going on an adventure. Ethan forced brightness into his voice, made it sound fun, not devastating. Gonna stay somewhere new for a while. Where? Good question. The shelters were always full. His car had been repossessed 6 months ago. He had no family in the city, no friends left who'd take them in. Everyone he knew was struggling just as hard as he was, holding on by their fingernails to their own piece of the American dream that kept slipping away. His hand found Claire Davenport's business card in his pocket. He'd been carrying it for 3 days, unable to decide whether to call. Pride said no. Pride said he'd saved her daughter out of human decency, not for reward. Pride said a man didn't beg, but pride didn't keep 7-year-old boys warm at night. Pack your stuff, Ethan told Ben. Clothes, your school things, Mr. Elephant, everything important. They didn't have much. It all fit in 2 duffel bags and a backpack, their entire life, condensed to 3 bags that Ethan could carry. When Volkov returned exactly 1 hour later with 2 large men who didn't speak English, Ethan and Ben were waiting in the hallway. The men changed the locks while Volkov watched, arms crossed. This is illegal, Ethan said without hope. You're supposed to go through housing court. So sue me. Volkov's smile showed yellow teeth. You know good lawyer? One who works for free? No? Then goodbye, Mr. Cole. Good luck with your adventure. They stood on the sidewalk as evening fell, 2 duffel bags and a backpack between them, and nowhere to go. Dad? Ben's voice was small. Where's our adventure? Ethan pulled out his phone, turned it on, found Claire Davenport's number. His thumb hovered over the call button. This was it. The moment where pride either saved him or killed him. He pressed call. It rang 3 times. 4. Maybe she wouldn't answer. Maybe she'd given him the number just to feel good about herself, never expecting... Ethan? Claire's voice was surprised but warm. Is everything all right? No. The word came out harder than he intended. No, everything's not all right. I just got evicted. My son and I are standing on the street with nowhere to go, and I'm calling you because I'm out of options, and you said if I ever needed anything. He stopped, took a breath, tried again. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... Where are you? Claire's voice had shifted. All business now, crisp, commanding. Corner of Amsterdam and 147th. Stay there. I'm sending a car. Ms. Davenport, I don't need... You called me. That means you need help, so let me help. The car will be there in 15 minutes. Wait for it. She hung up. Ethan stared at his phone. Ben tugged his sleeve. Who was that? The lady from the subway. Lila's mom. Are we going to see Lila? Maybe. I don't know. They waited. Traffic flowed past. A man pushed a shopping cart full of cans. 2 teenagers argued in Spanish. The city moved around them with complete indifference. 14 minutes later, a black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down. The driver was a middle-aged woman in a neat suit. Mr. Cole? That's me? Ms. Davenport sent me. Please, get in. The interior smelled like leather and money. Ben's eyes went wide as he sank into the seat. Ethan loaded their bags in the trunk and climbed in beside his son, feeling distinctly out of place. Men like him didn't ride in cars like this. They drove uptown. The neighborhoods changed, buildings got taller, cleaner. The people on the sidewalks wore better clothes. Even the dogs looked expensive. The car stopped in front of a glass tower on 68th Street that probably had its own zip code. The doorman opened the car door before Ethan could reach for the handle. Mr. Cole, Ms. Davenport is expecting you. 30th floor. The lobby was all marble and gold. A fountain tinkled somewhere. Piano music drifted from hidden speakers. Ben pressed close to Ethan's side, overwhelmed. It's okay, Ethan whispered. We're just visiting. The elevator was larger than their former apartment. It rose so smoothly Ethan barely felt the movement. When the doors opened on the 30th floor, they revealed a private foyer with a single door. Claire opened it before Ethan could knock. She'd traded her white coat for jeans and a sweater, but she still looked like money. Her apartment stretched behind her like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Furniture that was art. Art that was probably worth more than Ethan would make in his lifetime. Come in. Claire stepped aside. Please. Lila appeared behind her mother, shy but smiling. Hi, Ben. Hi. Ben waved awkwardly. Lila, why don't you show Ben your room? I need to talk to his father for a minute. The children disappeared down a hallway. Ethan stood in the entryway, acutely aware of his thrift store jacket and the hole in his boot. Sit. Claire gestured to a couch that probably cost more than a car. Tell me what happened. So Ethan told her. About the eviction. The job interviews that went nowhere. The bills piling up. The slow grinding poverty that had been eating him alive since Sarah died. Claire listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. I should have called sooner, she finally said. Should have checked on you. I assumed that viral videos pay the rent? Ethan couldn't quite keep the bitterness out. Yeah, turns out they don't. The GoFundMe. I'm not taking that money. People donated because they saw a video. They don't know me, don't owe me anything. They donated because you risked your life for a stranger's child. That's worth something, Ethan. Maybe. He stood. Look, I appreciate you sending the car, but I can't stay here. I don't even know what I needed. A moment to think, maybe. You need a place to stay. We'll figure something out. Where? A shelter? Do you know what shelters are like in this city? Better than most people. Ethan had spent 3 nights in one after Sarah died, when the grief had been so bad he couldn't function. It had been hell. He wouldn't put Ben through that. Claire stood as well, moving to the window. The city glittered below them, lights stretching to the horizon. I meant what I said at the cafe, she said quietly. I owe you everything. Let me help. I'm not your charity case. You're not. You're someone who did something extraordinary and got screwed for it by a system that punishes the poor for existing. She turned to face him. I can't fix that system, but I can help one person, right now, if you'll let me. Ethan wanted to refuse, wanted to grab Ben and walk out and figure it out on his own like he always had. But he was so tired, tired of fighting, tired of losing, tired of pretending everything was fine when it hadn't been fine for 3 years. What are you offering? He asked. A job. A real one, not charity disguised as employment. I need someone to run security maintenance at Davenport Innovations. Physical security, locks, cameras, access systems. You're a mechanic. You can learn. I don't have experience with security systems. You can learn, she repeated. You're smart. You think fast under pressure. Those are the qualities I need. And the salary? $75,000 to start. Benefits. Overtime available. Ethan's breath caught. $75,000. He'd never made more than 40 in his life. That's too much. For someone with no experience, it's market rate for the position. Actually, it's below market. But it's a starting point. Claire crossed her arms. You saved my daughter's life, Ethan. This isn't charity. This is me recognizing that a man who acts that fast, who moves that decisively in a crisis, is exactly who I need on my security team. And if I say no, then you say no. But you'll stay here tonight at least, both of you. Get a good night's sleep, eat a real meal, then decide in the morning. Laughter echoed from down the hall, Ben and Lila's voices playing some game. Ben sounded happy, actually happy, not just pretending for Ethan's sake. One night, Ethan said. Then we'll talk in the morning. Claire smiled. Good. I'll have Maria set up the guest room. You're probably hungry. Let me order dinner. What is Ben like? Anything. He's not picky. What do you like? The question caught him off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked what he wanted? I'm not picky either, he said. They ate Thai food at a table that sat 12, even though there were only 4 of them. Ben and Lila chattered about cartoons and school. Claire asked Ethan questions about his background, his skills, what he was good at. Not an interview exactly, more like a conversation between equals. Ethan found himself relaxing despite his best efforts. The food was good. The apartment was warm. For one night, he didn't have to worry about where they'd sleep or what they'd eat tomorrow. After dinner, Claire showed them to the guest room. It had a queen bed with actual sheets that matched, a private bathroom with hot water that didn't sputter, a TV, a window that overlooked the park. There are clothes in the closet, Claire said. Probably not your size, but clean, towels in the bathroom. If you need anything, I'm just down the hall. Thank you. Ethan's throat was tight. Really, thank you. Thank me by staying, by taking the job, by letting me do this one thing. She paused in the doorway. You gave me back my daughter. That's not a debt I can ever repay. But I'd like to try. After she left, Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, an actual bed, with a mattress that didn't have springs poking through, and watched Ben explore the room with wonder. His son found the remote, turned on the TV, channel surfed until he found cartoons. Dad, can we stay here? Just for tonight, buddy. But I like it here. Lila's nice, and this bed is so soft. I know, but this isn't our home. We don't have a home. The words hit like a punch, because Ben was right. They didn't have a home. They had addresses they were evicted from, rooms they couldn't afford, temporary spaces they occupied until someone with more money wanted them. That night, Ethan lay awake long after Ben fell asleep beside him. Through the window, he could see Central Park stretching dark and vast. Somewhere down there, people were sleeping on benches, in subway stations, in cardboard boxes under bridges. He'd almost been one of them. Might still be, if he was stupid enough to refuse Claire's offer. But taking it meant admitting he couldn't do it alone, meant accepting help from someone he barely knew, meant walking into a world of money and power where men like him didn't belong. He thought about Sarah, about what she would say. She'd always been the practical one, the one who saw reality clearly while Ethan charged ahead on stubborn pride. Take the job, you idiot, he could almost hear her say. Take care of our son. In the morning, Ethan found Claire in the kitchen, drinking coffee and reading something on her tablet. She looked up when he entered. Sleep well? Better than I have in months. She poured him a cup of coffee. So, have you thought about my offer? Ethan wrapped his hands around the warm mug. I need to know something first. Why me? You could hire a dozen qualified people for that position. Why give it to someone with no experience? Claire was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Because I watched you jump, she finally said. I watched you see a problem, a child falling toward certain death, and you didn't freeze, didn't hesitate, didn't wait for someone else to act. You assessed, decided, and moved. That's rare, Ethan. Most people in this world are frozen. They see problems and they wait. They hope someone else will fix it. She met his eyes. My company is in a competitive field. I need people who don't freeze, who move when movement is needed. It was just instinct. Exactly. The right instinct. The instinct to act, to help, to risk yourself for others. That's not something I can teach. Either you have it or you don't. She set down her coffee. You have it, so I'm offering you a chance to use it. Not on subway platforms. In a place where it'll actually pay your bills. Ethan thought about Ben, about eviction notices and empty refrigerators and 3 years of barely surviving, about pride versus practicality, about what Sarah would want. Okay, he said. I'll take the job. Claire smiled. Good. You start Monday. I'll have HR draw up the paperwork. In the meantime, you need a place to stay. I own a building in Brooklyn. Nothing fancy, but safe and clean. One of the units is empty. It's yours if you want it. I can't afford first month free. After that, we'll deduct rent from your paycheck. 20% of salary. That's standard employee housing. 20% of $75,000. Ethan did the math. $15,000 a year for rent, $1,250 a month, for a place in Brooklyn that was safe and clean. That's more than fair, he said. It's practical. I need you focused on work, not on where you'll sleep. Claire stood. Come on, let's get breakfast. Then we'll go look at the apartment. If you hate it, we'll find something else. They didn't hate it. The building was in Park Slope, a neighborhood Ethan had only ever passed through on the subway. Tree-lined streets, brownstones, coffee shops with outdoor seating. The apartment was on the 3rd floor. 2 bedrooms, a living room that wasn't also a kitchen, actual heat that worked. It needed some cleaning and probably a coat of paint, but it was a palace compared to what they'd lost. It's perfect, Ethan said, and meant it. Ben ran from room to room, claiming the smaller bedroom as his own, talking about where his bed would go and could they get a bookshelf and maybe a desk for homework. Claire's phone rang. She glanced at the screen, frowned. I need to take this. It's work. She stepped into the hallway. Ethan could hear her voice, sharp and urgent, though he couldn't make out the words. When she came back in, her expression was troubled. Everything okay? He asked. Just a complication at the office. Nothing you need to worry about. But her hands were tight on her phone. They signed papers that afternoon. Lease agreement, employment contract, tax forms. Ethan's signature looked shaky next to Claire's confident script, but it was done. He had a job. He had an apartment. He had a future that didn't involve sleeping under bridges. That night, in their new apartment with actual furniture Claire had arranged to have delivered, Ethan sat on the couch, a real couch, not someone's curb trash, and tried to process how much his life had changed in 5 days. 5 days ago, he'd been drowning. Now he had a life raft, all because he'd made one split-second decision to jump. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Marcus from the subway station. Hope you don't mind. Got your number from Ms. D's assistant. Just wanted to say congratulations on the job, man. You earned it. Ethan smiled, typed back, Thanks. Good to hear from you. Another text, this one from a number he did recognize, his former landlord. I see you on news. Very impressive. Maybe we can work out deal on back rent? Ethan deleted it without responding. Some bridges deserved to burn. Monday morning arrived with the inevitability of Judgment Day. Ethan stood in front of his new bathroom mirror, wearing clothes that actually fit, part of the work wardrobe Claire had insisted on buying, not charity, just practical because you can't show up to a corporate office in torn jeans, and tried to recognize himself. You look fancy, Dad. Ben was eating cereal at their actual kitchen table, wearing his school uniform, ready for the new school Claire had enrolled him in. A good school. A safe school. One where the teachers weren't outnumbered 30-1. I look terrified, Ethan corrected. You look like a guy who jumps in front of trains. You can handle an office. When had his 7-year-old gotten so wise? Davenport Innovations occupied 15 floors of a midtown tower that probably had its own weather system. Ethan showed his new ID badge to security. Welcome aboard, Mr. Cole. We've heard a lot about you, and took the elevator to the 14th floor. The security department was tucked in the back, away from the sleek marketing and development offices. 6 people worked there. The director, Victor Kane, a former cop with gray hair and suspicious eyes, 2 tech specialists who barely looked up from their monitors, an admin assistant who smiled too much, and 2 field coordinators who handled the physical security work. So you're the hero. Victor looked Ethan up and down. Claire speaks highly of you. Just did what anyone would do. Except nobody else did it. Victor's expression was unreadable. Welcome to the team. Let me show you what we do here. The job was more complicated than Ethan expected. Davenport Innovations designed quantum computing systems. He only half understood what that meant. And security was paramount. Industrial espionage was real. Competitors would pay millions for proprietary designs. Every door, every lock, every camera was part of a system that had to work perfectly. You'll start with maintenance, Victor explained. Learn the systems, how they work, how they break, how to fix them fast. Then we'll move you into monitoring and response. Eventually, maybe field coordination if you're good at it. And if I'm not? Then you'll stay in maintenance. It's honest work. Pays the same. Victor paused. Look, I'll be straight with you. Some people here are going to think you got this job because you saved the boss's kid. They're not wrong. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve to be here. You keep your head down, do the work, and prove you belong. I can do that. Good. Now let's get started. The first week was overwhelming. Ethan learned about access control systems, biometric scanners, motion sensors, and a dozen other technologies he'd never heard of. His brain hurt by the end of each day. But he learned, took notes, asked questions, stayed late to practice. The tech specialists, Jay and Priya, warmed to him quickly. They appreciated that he actually listened, that he didn't pretend to know things he didn't. Most of the contractors we hire don't know a router from a toaster, Priya said, showing him how to reset a stuck door controller. They just throw parts at problems. You actually try to understand what's wrong. That's rare. I'm a mechanic. Diagnostics is what I do. Was a mechanic, Jay corrected. Now you're security. Different world, but same principles. Figure out what's broken, fix it. Make sure it doesn't break again. Ethan found his rhythm. The work wasn't glamorous, but it was solid, real. He went home each night with sore feet and a sense of accomplishment. Ben was thriving in his new school, making friends, bringing home homework that suggested he was actually learning something. For the first time in 3 years, Ethan could breathe. But of course, nothing good lasted. It started with small things. Doors that shouldn't have been unlocked were open. Cameras with clear sight lines mysteriously angled wrong. Access logs showing entries that didn't match employee schedules. Probably just glitches, Victor said when Ethan brought it to his attention. These systems are complicated. Things happen. But Ethan's instincts, the same instincts that had made him jump on that platform, said something was wrong. He started keeping his own logs, noting discrepancies, following patterns, and the more he looked, the more he saw. Someone was deliberately compromising their security, someone inside the company. You're being paranoid, Jay said when Ethan mentioned it. Why would anyone sabotage their own security? To make it easier to steal, Ethan replied. You said it yourself, our competitors would pay millions for our designs. What if someone's selling access? That's a serious accusation. It's a serious problem. Ethan took his findings to Victor. Laid out 3 weeks of documentation, unexplained door breaches, camera malfunctions during sensitive meetings, access badge clones that shouldn't exist. Victor studied the papers, his expression darkening. You're sure about this? I'm sure there's a pattern. Whether it's intentional or just negligence, I can't say. We'll need to investigate quietly. If there's really a leak, we don't want to spook them. Victor met Ethan's eyes. This stays between us for now, not even Jay and Priya. Understood? Understood. That night, Ethan stayed late. The office was quiet after 6, most employees gone home to families and lives that didn't involve hunting for traitors. He reviewed security footage, cross-referenced access logs, built a timeline of suspicious events. He was so focused, he didn't hear the door open behind him until a voice said, "Working late, Mr. Cole?" Ethan spun. Claire stood in the doorway, still in her business suit, looking exhausted. "Miss Davenport, I didn't hear you come in." "Most people don't hear me. One of my superpowers." She moved into the room. "What are you working on?" Ethan hesitated. Victor had said to keep it quiet, but this was her company. She had a right to know. "I think someone's sabotaging your security." Claire's expression didn't change. "Explain." So he did. Showed her the logs, the patterns, the timeline. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "How certain are you?" 80%, maybe higher. "Who knows about this?" "Just Victor and me." "Keep it that way." Claire pulled out her phone. "I'm going to make some calls, bring in outside investigators. If you're right, and I suspect you are, this is bigger than just security." "How much bigger?" Claire looked at him, and for the first time since they'd met, he saw fear in her eyes. "We're 3 months from launching a new quantum processor. If the specs leak to our competitors, it could destroy us. We're talking billions in lost contracts, thousands of jobs." She took a breath. Including yours. The weight of that settled on Ethan's shoulders. He'd thought he was just fixing broken locks. Turns out he'd stumbled into corporate warfare. What do you need me to do? Keep watching, document everything, and Ethan? She met his eyes. Be careful. If there really is a leak and they realize you're onto them, you could be in danger. I've jumped in front of trains. I think I can handle corporate espionage. Claire smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I hope you're right. Over the next week, things escalated. A server room was accessed after hours by someone using a cloned badge. Prototype designs disappeared from a supposedly secure lab. And through it all, Ethan watched and documented and tried to find the pattern. He was reviewing footage from the executive floor when he saw it. A figure in a maintenance uniform, moving with purpose through restricted areas. The camera angle wasn't great, but Ethan recognized the walk. The build. It was Marcus, the security guard from the subway. The man who'd helped pull Ethan back from the tracks, who'd texted congratulations on the job, who'd worked at Davenport Innovations for 6 months before Ethan arrived. Son of a bitch, Ethan breathed. He pulled up Marcus's employment file. Hired by Victor Kane personally. Excellent references. No red flags. But Ethan looked at the access logs and saw Marcus's badge being used in places he had no business being, at times when he was supposedly off duty. Ethan called Victor. We need to talk. Now. They met in an unused conference room. Ethan laid out his findings. Victor's face grew harder with each piece of evidence. Marcus. Victor said the name like a curse. God damn it, I vouched for him. Maybe he's got an explanation. Maybe. But I doubt it. Victor stood. We need to move carefully. If he knows we're on to him. The fire alarm split the air. Both men froze. Drill? Ethan asked. Not scheduled. Victor was already moving. Stay here. But Ethan didn't stay. He followed Victor into the hallway where employees were calmly evacuating toward the stairs. No smoke, no chaos, just a standard drill response. Except it wasn't a drill. The server room, Ethan said suddenly. He's using the evacuation as cover. Victor's eyes widened. Go, I'll handle the evacuation. Ethan ran, past confused employees, past the stairwell where everyone else was heading, against the flow of bodies toward the server room on the 12th floor. The door was propped open. Shouldn't have been. Fire protocols required all doors to close automatically during an alarm. Inside, Marcus was hunched over a terminal, a USB drive glowing in the port. He looked up as Ethan entered. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Ethan. Marcus's voice was calm, almost sad. You weren't supposed to be here. What are you doing? What does it look like, making a living? Marcus pulled the USB drive, pocketing it. Nothing personal, just business. You're stealing corporate secrets. I prefer redistributing information. Sounds nicer. Marcus moved toward the door. Let me pass, Ethan. You're a good guy. I don't want to hurt you. Can't do that. Ethan blocked the doorway. You really want to die for a corporation that'll replace you the second you're not useful? I want to keep my job, keep my son housed and fed. This company gave me that. So yeah, I'll die for it if I have to. Marcus sighed. Always the hero. That's going to get you killed. He moved fast, faster than Ethan expected from a man his size. A jab aimed at Ethan's throat meant to disable, maybe kill. But Ethan had grown up in neighborhoods where you learned to fight or you didn't survive. He slipped the punch, grabbed Marcus's arm, used his momentum to slam him against the wall. Marcus drove an elbow back, caught Ethan in the ribs. Pain exploded, but Ethan held on. They crashed into a server rack, equipment scattering. Security! Ethan shouted. Server room! Now! Marcus threw him off. Ethan hit the floor hard and his vision swam. Through the haze, he saw Marcus pull something from his belt. A gun. I really didn't want to do this, Marcus said. The shot was impossibly loud in the enclosed space, but the bullet didn't hit Ethan. It hit the doorframe because Claire Davenport had thrown herself into the room, slamming into Marcus from behind. They went down in a tangle. The gun skittered across the floor. Ethan lunged for it, got his hand around the grip just as Marcus threw Claire off and charged. Stop! Ethan aimed the gun with shaking hands. "Don't make me—" But Marcus wasn't stopping. Was running straight at him, and Ethan had maybe 2 seconds to decide if he was really willing to shoot someone, really willing to take a life over corporate data and a paycheck. He lowered the gun, stepped aside, let Marcus run past him, out the door, into the hallway where Victor and 3 security guards were waiting. They took him down hard. Professional, efficient, really willing to shoot someone, really willing to take a life over corporate data and a paycheck. He lowered the gun, stepped aside, let Marcus run past him, out the door, into the hallway where Victor and 3 security guards were waiting. They took him down hard. Professional, efficient. Marcus fought, but it was over in seconds. Ethan slumped against the wall, gun hanging loose in his hand. Claire sat up slowly, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. "You okay?" Ethan asked. "Better than him." Claire nodded toward Marcus, who was being cuffed on the floor. "You?" "My ribs are going to hurt for a week, but yeah, I'm okay." Victor appeared in the doorway, saw the gun in Ethan's hand. "That's evidence. I'll need to take that." Ethan handed it over gratefully. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. "How did you know?" Claire asked Ethan. "How did you figure out it was Marcus?" "I didn't. Not until tonight. Just had a feeling something was wrong." Ethan managed a weak smile. "Same feeling that made me jump on the subway platform. Guess my instincts are pretty good." "Your instincts just saved this company." Claire stood, touching the cut on her head gingerly. "Again." Later, after the police came and went, after Marcus was arrested and the server room secured, Ethan found himself back in his apartment with Ben, trying to explain why there were news vans outside their building. "You stopped a bad guy?" Ben's eyes were huge. "Sort of. Mostly I just noticed something was wrong and told people." "That's what heroes do, though. They notice things and help fix them." Ethan pulled his son close. "I'm not a hero, buddy. Just a guy trying to do his job." But the next morning, when Claire called him into her office, she had a different perspective. "Effective immediately, you're being promoted to Director of Security. Victor's retiring. His choice, not mine. He feels responsible for hiring Marcus." Claire slid a contract across the desk. $120,000 salary, full benefits, company car if you want it. Ethan stared at the number. That's insane. That's appropriate for someone who just prevented a multi-billion-dollar theft." Claire leaned back in her chair. "You've saved my daughter, saved my company. At this point, Ethan, I'm starting to think you might be the best hire I've ever made." "I jumped in front of a train." "Yes, and kept jumping into danger ever since. That's exactly the quality I need," she smiled. "So, what do you say? Ready to lead a team?" Ethan thought about subway platforms and eviction notices and nights when he'd gone to bed hungry so Ben could eat. Thought about how far they'd come in 6 weeks, how much had changed because of one split-second decision. He picked up the pen. "Where do I sign?" The signature was barely dry when reality hit. Director of Security, Ethan Cole, who 6 weeks ago had been sleeping on a mattress on the floor with eviction notices as wallpaper, was now responsible for protecting a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The weight of it settled on his shoulders like a physical thing as he walked back to his new office. Victor's old office, with its view of the city and furniture that didn't come from someone's curb. Jay and Priya were waiting when he arrived, their expressions carefully neutral. "So," Jay said. "Boss?" The word sounded wrong. Ethan had spent his entire adult life taking orders, not giving them. "Don't call me that, just Ethan." "Can't do that anymore." Priya crossed her arms. "You're management now. There's a hierarchy." "Then the hierarchy is stupid." Ethan dropped into the chair behind the desk. It was leather. It squeaked. He hated it already. "Look, I know this is weird. Yesterday I was changing access codes and learning how routers work. Today I'm supposedly in charge. If you want to hate me for it, I get it." "We don't hate you," Jay said. "We're just trying to figure out if you earned this or if Claire's still feeling grateful about the subway thing." It was a fair question. Ethan had been asking himself the same thing. "Probably both," he admitted. "But I'm here now, and I'm going to do the job right. That means I need your help. You two know these systems better than I ever will. So I'm not going to come in here pretending I'm smarter than you. I'm going to ask questions, listen to answers, and make decisions based on what you tell me. That work for you?" Priya and Jay exchanged glances. Some silent communication passed between them. "Yeah," Priya finally said. "That works." "Good. Now catch me up on what I don't know. How bad was the breach?" They spent the next 3 hours walking Ethan through the damage. Marcus had been selling access for 8 months, long before Ethan arrived. He'd compromised 17 secure areas, copied proprietary designs worth an estimated $3 billion, and sold the information to a shell corporation that funneled it to Davenport's biggest competitor, Chen Technologies. "The good news," Jay said, "is that he didn't get the quantum processor specs. Those are air-gapped, no network connection at all. He was working his way there, but you caught him first." "Small mercies," Ethan rubbed his eyes. "What's our exposure, legally, I mean?" "Claire's lawyers are handling it. Criminal charges against Marcus. Civil suit against Chen Tech for corporate espionage. It's going to be ugly." Priya pulled up a news article on her tablet. "And public. This hit the press this morning." The headline read, "Hero of Morrison Street Subway Foils Corporate Spy Ring at Davenport Innovations." Below it, a photo of Ethan from the night of the arrest, looking exhausted and overwhelmed. "Great," Ethan muttered. "More attention." "You're famous, boss." "Might as well accept it," Jay grinned. "We're thinking of making trading cards." Ethan Cole jumps in front of trains, catches corporate spies, probably fights crime in his spare time. "I'm gonna fire you." "No, you won't. You need me too much." He wasn't wrong. The next few weeks were a crash course in management. Ethan hired 2 new security coordinators to replace Marcus and bolster the team. He implemented new protocols, badge audits, camera redundancies, random access checks. He spent hours in meetings with Claire and her executive team, explaining threats and proposing solutions in language they could understand. It was exhausting, but it was also exhilarating. For the first time since Sarah died, Ethan felt like he was building something. Not just surviving, but actually creating a future. Ben was thriving in school, bringing home report cards that made Ethan's chest tight with pride. They had a real apartment now, with heat that worked, and a kitchen where they cooked actual meals. Ethan had money in the bank. Not a lot, but enough that he didn't panic every time an unexpected bill arrived. He should have known it wouldn't last. The first sign of trouble came on a Tuesday in November. Ethan was reviewing access logs when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Ethan Cole. Mr. Cole, this is Detective Lisa Warren, NYPD Major Crimes. We need to talk about Marcus Chen." Ethan's stomach dropped. "I already gave my statement. Multiple statements. This isn't about his arrest. This is about his associates." Warren's voice was crisp, professional. "We have reason to believe Marcus was working with a larger organization. The people he sold information to aren't happy that he got caught. They've made threats." "What kind of threats?" "The kind that suggest you and Miss Davenport might be in danger. Can you come down to the precinct? We need to discuss security measures." Ethan looked at his calendar. Back-to-back meetings until 6. "I can be there by 7. "Make it sooner. This is urgent." He made it sooner. The precinct was different in daylight, less oppressive, but no more welcoming. Detective Warren met him in the lobby, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with gray streaking her dark hair. "Mr. Cole, thanks for coming." She led him to a conference room where another detective waited, a younger man with the kind of face that suggested he'd seen too much too soon. "This is Detective Raymond Torres. He's been investigating the Chen Tech connection." Warren gestured to a chair. "Sit. This is going to take a while." They laid out the situation. Marcus had been one small piece of a massive industrial espionage network. The people running it had operations in 6 countries, connections to organized crime, and a very low tolerance for failure. Marcus's arrest had cost them billions. They wanted revenge. "How serious are these threats?" Ethan asked. "Very." Torres slid a folder across the table. "These are intercepted communications. They mention you by name, mention Ms. Davenport, mention your son." Ethan's blood went cold. "Ben?" "They know where he goes to school, know your address. They're gathering information, which means they're planning something." Warren leaned forward. "We're coordinating with the FBI on this. It's bigger than local jurisdiction, but in the meantime, you need protection." What kind of protection? Police detail. Security at your home and office. Relocation if necessary. Relocation? Ethan's mind was spinning. I can't just uproot my life. I have a job. Ben has school. Mr. Cole, these people have killed before. They don't make empty threats. Torres's voice was gentle but firm. We're not trying to scare you. We're trying to keep you alive. Ethan sat back, trying to process. He'd thought catching Marcus was the end of the story. Turned out it was just the beginning. I need to talk to Claire. Already did. She's being briefed by our captain right now. Warren stood. Go home. Pack a bag. We'll have officers at your apartment in an hour. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't follow a routine, and don't tell anyone where you're going. This is insane. This is your life now, at least until we can dismantle this network. Torres handed him a card. My direct number. You see anything suspicious, anything at all, you call me. Understood? Ethan nodded numbly and left. Outside, the city looked different. Every face in the crowd was a potential threat. Every car that slowed near him triggered adrenaline. He'd spent 3 years invisible, just another struggling nobody in a city of millions. Now he was a target. The apartment felt like a trap when he arrived. He checked every room, every closet, every shadow. Found nothing but his own paranoia. Ben would be home from school in 2 hours, escorted by the after-school program van like always. Except now, like always, was a liability. Routines were vulnerabilities. His phone rang. Claire. Ethan, are you okay? Define okay. He locked the door, checked the lock, checked it again. The police just told me I'm on a hit list. I know, I'm so sorry. This is my fault. If I hadn't given you the job, stop. You gave me a life, gave Ben a future. Whatever happens now, that's on the people making threats, not you. Claire was quiet for a moment. The police want us to relocate. There's a safe house in New Jersey, federal protection until they can neutralize the threat. For how long? They don't know. Weeks, maybe months. Months. Ben would have to leave his school, his friends, the first stable life he'd had since Sarah died. And Ethan would have to abandon the career he had just started building. There has to be another option. Like what? We can't just pretend this isn't happening. No, but we don't have to run either. An idea was forming in Ethan's mind. Probably a stupid idea, definitely a dangerous one. These people are organized, professional. They don't make moves without planning. That's supposed to be reassuring? It means they're predictable. They'll surveil us first, establish patterns, find weaknesses. Ethan started pacing. What if we use that? Let them think they're gathering intelligence while we're actually setting a trap. Ethan, you're not a cop. You're not a spy. You're a security director who until 6 weeks ago was fixing door locks. And you're a CEO who just tackled an armed man in a server room. We're both out of our depth, but we're smart enough to swim. Claire laughed, but it was strained. You're actually serious about this. I'm serious about not running, about not letting Ben's life get destroyed again because bad people exist. Ethan stopped pacing. Talk to the detectives, see if they'll work with us. Use Davenport's resources, set up proper security, make our places so locked down that when these people make their move, we're ready. That's incredibly risky. So was jumping in front of a train worked out okay? You almost died. But I didn't, and neither did Lila. Ethan took a breath. Claire, I'm tired of being a victim, tired of having things happen to me. For once in my life, I want to be the one making things happen. Even if it's dangerous, even if it's stupid, at least it's my choice. Another long silence. Then, let me make some calls. Don't do anything until you hear from me. Define anything. Ethan. I'll wait, but not long. He hung up and immediately called Ben's school. Whitmore Academy, how may I direct your call? This is Ethan Cole, Ben Cole's father. I need to speak to the principal. It's urgent. 5 minutes later, Principal Davison came on the line. Ethan explained the situation carefully without causing panic. Davison listened, asked smart questions, and made immediate changes to Ben's security protocol. No more van service. Ethan would pick him up personally. A security guard would walk Ben to and from class. No field trips without explicit parental approval. Mr. Cole, I want you to know we take our students' safety very seriously. Ben will be protected. Thank you. Ethan's throat was tight. He's been through enough. He doesn't need this. I understand. We'll make sure he's safe. When Ben came home that afternoon, delivered by Ethan personally, after a tense drive where he checked every mirror and memorized every car that followed too long, Ethan had to explain why 2 police officers were sitting in an unmarked car outside their building. Are we in trouble? Ben's eyes were huge. No, but the man I helped arrest has some friends who are mad about it. So the police are making sure we stay safe. Are they going to hurt us? Ethan wanted to lie, wanted to say everything was fine, nothing to worry about. Go do your homework. But he'd learned from Sarah's death that lying to children didn't protect them. It just made reality hurt worse when it arrived. They might try, he said honestly, but we're not going to let them. We're going to be smart, careful, and the police are going to help us. Like superheroes? Sort of, except with less flying and more paperwork. Ben managed a smile. Can I tell my friends at school? Better not. The less people know, the safer we are. That night, after Ben fell asleep, Ethan sat in the living room with all the lights off, watching the street below. The police car was still there. A new shift now, different officers. They'd be there all night, every night until the threat was resolved. His phone buzzed, a text from Claire. Detectives agreed to work with us. Meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. Bring coffee. This is going to be complicated. Ethan smiled despite everything. At least he wasn't facing this alone. The meeting the next morning included Claire, Ethan, Detectives Warren and Torres, 2 FBI agents whose names Ethan immediately forgot, and someone from Davenport's private security consultant firm, an intense woman named Kira Chen who had the look of someone who'd seen combat and won. Here's the situation, Warren began, pulling up images on a screen. The organization Marcus was working for calls themselves the Syndicate. Very original. They operate globally, specializing in corporate and government espionage. Their leadership is paranoid and competent, which is a dangerous combination. How many people are we talking about? Claire asked. 30 confirmed members in the U.S., maybe twice that internationally. They compartmentalize heavily. Each cell operates independently. Marcus was part of the tech theft cell. The cell that's threatening you handles enforcement. Enforcement? Ethan didn't like the sound of that. Punishment for failures, elimination of threats. They're very good at what they do. FBI Agent 1, Ethan thought her name was Richardson, tapped the screen. 3 hits in the last year, all made to look like accidents. Car crash, mugging gone wrong, gas leak. Cheerful, Claire muttered. Their pattern is consistent, Kira spoke up. 2 weeks of surveillance, 1 week of planning, then execution during a routine moment when the target's guard is down. They like to strike when you're alone, distracted, or in a public place where they can disappear into the crowd. So we never give them that moment, Ethan said. We stay guarded, stay aware, change our routines constantly. That's exhausting and unsustainable, Torres countered. You can't live like that indefinitely. Eventually you'll make a mistake, get tired, let your guard down for 30 seconds. That's when they'll strike. Then we make them strike on our terms, Kira said. Set up a scenario where they think they have an opening, but we're actually in control. Draw them out, take them down. You want to use Ms. Davenport and Mr. Cole as bait? Warren frowned. That's risky. Everything's risky. At least this way we're controlling the variables. Kira looked at Claire and Ethan. It's your call. We can put you in protective custody, keep you hidden until the FBI dismantles the syndicate. Could take months, maybe years. Or we can be proactive. Force their hand. End this fast. Claire and Ethan exchanged glances. Fast, they said simultaneously. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in controlled paranoia. Ethan's apartment was wired with cameras and sensors. Claire's penthouse became a fortress. Both of them wore panic buttons disguised as watches. Everywhere they went, plainclothes protection followed at a distance, but they also maintained visible routines. Ethan took Ben to school each morning, same route, same time. Picked him up each afternoon. Went to the office, came home. To anyone watching, it looked like normal life with a police escort. What the watchers didn't see was the backup team tracking them, the drones overhead, the network of informants Kira had activated throughout the city. Every step Ethan and Claire took was monitored, protected, and used to gather intelligence on whoever was gathering intelligence on them. It's like chess, Kira explained during one of their daily briefings. They're watching us. We're watching them watch us. First person to blink loses. What if they don't make a move? Ethan asked. They will. They can't afford not to. Marcus's arrest was a major loss. They need to send a message that betraying the syndicate has consequences. You and Claire are that message. It was a strange way to live. Every morning, Ethan woke up and remembered that somewhere in the city, someone was planning to kill him. Every night, he checked on Ben 3 times, making sure his son was breathing, was safe, was still there. Ben handled it better than Ethan expected. Kids were resilient. Or maybe he'd just gotten used to his life being unstable. Either way, he adapted. Made friends with the police officers, started doing his homework in the living room where Ethan could see him. Didn't complain when Ethan checked the locks obsessively. You okay, Dad? Ben asked one night, finding Ethan at the window again. Just being careful. You're scared. It wasn't a question. Ethan had never been able to lie to those Sarah brown eyes. Yeah, I'm scared. Me too. Ben climbed onto the couch beside him. But we're together, so it's okay to be scared together, right? Ethan pulled his son close. Yeah, buddy, it's okay. The break came on a Wednesday. Kira burst into Ethan's office without knocking, tablet in hand. We got them. The surveillance team. 3 people. Rotating shifts. Watching both your place and Claire's. She pulled up photos. This one's former military. Dishonorable discharge. These 2 have records. Assault. Weapons charges. They've been tracking you for 12 days. That's their pattern, Ethan remembered. 2 week surveillance, 1 week planning, then they strike. Which means we have 2 days to set the trap. Kira was already typing. I need to coordinate with the FBI, get tactical teams in position. What's the plan? We give them an opening, something too good to resist. Then when they move, we grab them. She looked up. You're going to hate this part. The opening has to look real, which means you have to be vulnerable. Actually vulnerable, not fake vulnerable. Ethan's stomach tightened. Define vulnerable. Alone. Isolated. No visible protection. Walking into a scenario where they can make their move without witnesses. Kira's expression was grim. I know what I'm asking, but if we try to fake it, they'll know. These people are professionals. So I'm bait. You're bait with an entire tactical team 30 seconds away. But yes, bait. That night, Ethan told Ben he'd be working late the next few days. Made arrangements for Ben to stay with Claire and Lila. The penthouse was more secure anyway. Ben didn't want to go. I want to stay with you. I know, buddy, but this is important, and you'll have fun with Lila. She's been asking about another playdate. You promise you'll be okay? Ethan thought about lying, decided against it. I promise I'll do everything I can to stay safe. But if something happens, if something goes wrong, I need you to know something. Dad, don't. Listen, if something happens, you've got people who love you. Claire, Lila, your teachers. Detective Warren, she's actually pretty cool once you get to know her. You'll be okay. I don't want to be okay without you. Ben's voice cracked. I already lost Mom. I can't lose you too. Ethan held him tight, breathing in the scent of his son's shampoo, memorizing the weight of him. You're not going to lose me. I'm too stubborn to die. Ask anyone. The next morning, they executed the plan. Ethan's routine was the same. Drive Ben to school, go to the office, work through lunch. But at 3 p.m., he left the building alone. No protection visible. No backup obvious. Just him, walking 3 blocks to a parking garage where his car was supposedly parked. The garage was perfect for an ambush. 4 stories. Multiple blind spots. Exit routes in every direction. If the syndicate was going to make a move, this would be the place. Ethan's heart hammered as he entered. The panic button on his wrist felt both reassuring and useless. If things went wrong, 30 seconds was an eternity. His footsteps echoed in the concrete space. Level 1. Level 2. His car was supposedly on level 3. He took the stairs, each step deliberate. Controlled. Level 3 was deserted. His car sat in the corner, exactly where he'd left it that morning. Ethan walked toward it, keys in hand, every sense screaming danger. The attack came from behind, fast and professional, an arm around his throat cutting off air. Chemical smell, chloroform, as something pressed against his face. Ethan didn't fight. That was the plan. Let them think they had him. Let them make their move. His vision blurred, his knees buckled, the world tilted. Then the garage exploded with action. FBI, freeze! Get your hands up! On the ground! Now! Gunfire. Shouting. The arm around Ethan's throat released as his attacker was tackled by 3 agents in tactical gear. More agents poured from hiding spots, behind cars, in stairwells, on the roof. The syndicate's enforcement team didn't stand a chance. It was over in less than a minute. Ethan sat on the concrete, coughing, while a paramedic checked him over. Kira appeared, looking satisfied. You okay? Peachy, love being strangled is part of my job description. You did good. We got all 3 of them, plus the guy in the van outside who was coordinating. She helped him stand. It's over, Ethan. They can't hurt you now. But Ethan knew better. They'd caught the enforcement cell, sure, but the syndicate was bigger than 3 hired muscles. The real threat, the people who'd ordered the hit, were still out there. This isn't over, he said. Kira's expression confirmed it. No, but it's a start. The arrests made national news. FBI dismantles hit squad targeting subway hero, read the headlines. Ethan's face was plastered everywhere again, the man who couldn't catch a break from being heroic. At the precinct, detectives Warren and Torres debriefed him for hours. The enforcement cell was talking, cutting deals, giving up information about the syndicate's structure. It would take months to unravel completely, but the immediate threat was neutralized. You can go home, Warren finally said. Get some rest. We'll keep a patrol on your building for another week, but you should be safe. Should be. Not the most reassuring phrase, but Ethan would take it. He picked up Ben from Claire's penthouse. His son launched himself into Ethan's arms, holding on like he'd never let go. You're okay. You're really okay. Told you I was too stubborn to die. Ethan buried his face in Ben's hair. Come on, let's go home. That night, in their apartment that finally felt safe again, Ethan made spaghetti. Actual spaghetti, with garlic bread and salad. They ate at their kitchen table, and Ben talked about his day with Lila, about school, about the science project he was working on. Normal things. Beautiful, boring, normal things. After Ben went to bed, Ethan stood at the window one more time. The police car was still there, but he knew it would be gone soon. Life would return to normal, or whatever passed for normal, in a life that had included jumping in front of trains and catching corporate spies and surviving assassination attempts. His phone rang. Claire. How are you holding up? Still processing. Ethan rubbed his neck where bruises were forming. Thanks for keeping Ben safe. I know it wasn't convenient. Ethan, he's a wonderful kid. It was a privilege. Claire paused. Listen, the board met today. They want to do something for you. Recognition for everything you've done. There's talk of making you vice president of security. That's insane. I've been director for like 6 weeks. And in those 6 weeks, you've prevented a multi-billion-dollar theft, uncovered a spy ring, and survived an assassination attempt. I'd say you've earned it. Vice president. The title felt absurd, but the salary would be even better. Ben could go to a better school. They could move to a bigger apartment. Maybe take a vacation, something Ethan hadn't done in 4 years. I'll think about it, he said. Think fast. The board meets again next week. Claire's voice softened. You've come a long way from that subway platform, Ethan Cole. We both have. After they hung up, Ethan checked on Ben one more time. His son was sprawled across the bed, Mr. Elephant clutched tight, breathing deep and peaceful. Safe. Protected. Loved. Ethan thought about the past 2 months, about how one moment of action, one split-second decision to jump instead of freeze, had cascaded into a completely different life. Not an easier life, but a better one. A life with purpose and possibility and people who believed in him. He thought about Sarah, about what she would say if she could see them now. She'd probably laugh at him for becoming an executive, tease him about the fancy apartment. Then she'd hug him tight and whisper that she was proud. Ethan hoped she was. Hoped she could see them somehow. See that he'd kept his promise to take care of their son. That he hadn't quit, even when quitting would have been so much easier. Coal men don't quit, she used to say. And despite everything, the poverty, the grief, the constant fight to survive, Ethan never had. He wasn't about to start now. The promotion became official on a Monday morning that felt like any other Monday until it wasn't. Ethan stood in the boardroom on the 42nd floor of Davenport Tower, surrounded by people in suits that cost more than his first car, and tried not to feel like an imposter. The board members studied him with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. These were people who measured worth in quarterly earnings and stock prices, not subway heroics. "Mr. Cole," the chairman said, a silver-haired man named Richard Ashworth, whose handshake could crush bones. "The board has reviewed your performance over the past 2 months. Your actions have directly saved this company from catastrophic loss, both financial and reputational." Ethan nodded, not sure if he was supposed to speak. "That said," Ashworth continued, his tone cooling, "Vice President is a significant role. You'd be overseeing not just physical security, but cybersecurity, risk assessment, and crisis management. That's a substantial leap for someone with limited corporate experience." Here it comes, Ethan thought. The part where they thank him politely and offer him a nice bonus instead. But Claire stood up from her seat at the head of the table. "Richard, with respect, experience is overrated. I've watched Ethan identify problems that people with 20 years of experience missed. He thinks differently, acts decisively. Those are qualities you can't teach in business school." "Claire, no one's questioning his instincts, but instinct alone doesn't qualify someone for executive leadership." "Then what does?" Claire's voice had an edge now. "An MBA? Because I can name 6 executives with impressive credentials who missed Marcus's breach for 8 months. Ethan found it in 3 weeks." Another board member spoke up, a woman named Patricia Wells, who'd made her fortune in pharmaceutical patents. "Ms. Davenport, we're not suggesting Mr. Cole isn't valuable. We're suggesting that perhaps a different role might be more appropriate. Senior director, perhaps. Or a specialized consultant position. Translation: keep him around, but not at the executive table. Not with people like us." Ethan had heard this song before. Different venue, same lyrics. "You're useful, but you don't belong here." "If I may," Ethan said quietly. The room fell silent. "You're right. I don't have an MBA. I don't have corporate experience. I didn't go to the right schools or join the right clubs. I'm a mechanic who learned security by actually doing it, not by reading case studies." Ashworth's expression suggested this wasn't helping Ethan's case. "But here's what I do have," Ethan continued. "I know what it's like to have everything to lose. I know how to see threats before they become disasters because I've spent my entire life one disaster away from the street. I know how to make decisions under pressure because pressure is all I've ever known." He met each board member's eyes in turn. "You want someone who'll protect this company like their life depends on it?" "Mine actually does. This job is the only thing standing between my son and the poverty I just climbed out of. So yeah, I'll work harder than anyone with a safety net ever could. That's what you're getting if you promote me." The silence stretched. Then Patricia Wells smiled, actually smiled. "That's the most honest thing I've heard in this room in 10 years, she said. "I vote yes." One by one, the board members voted. Not unanimous. Ashworth and 2 others voted no, but enough. The promotion passed. Afterward, Claire pulled Ethan aside in the hallway. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing you've ever said in a business setting." "Probably both." Ethan loosened his tie. Still couldn't get used to wearing the damn things. "Thanks for backing me in there." "I didn't back you. I stated facts." Claire smiled. "Besides, you've saved my daughter and my company. The least I can do is defend you to a room full of people who've never risked anything more serious than a bad stock pick." "Ashworth hates me now." "Richard hates everyone under 60 who doesn't play golf. Don't take it personally." She checked her phone, frowned. "Speaking of risks, we have a problem. Come to my office." Claire's office was what you'd expect from someone running a multi-billion-dollar company. Floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than Ethan's entire apartment, and enough technology to launch a small satellite. She pulled up an email on her main screen. This came in an hour ago, encrypted, routed through 6 proxies, untraceable. Claire's jaw was tight. Read it. The email was short and venomous. You thought arresting our people would end this? You thought wrong. The syndicate doesn't forget. The syndicate doesn't forgive. Your daughter is 8 years old. She likes strawberry ice cream and that stuffed rabbit. She walks to the park every Saturday at noon. Would be a shame if something happened. Drop all charges against our people. Pay $20 million to the attached account. You have 72 hours. This is your only warning. Ethan's blood went cold. They're threatening Lila? Not just threatening, they're proving they've been watching her, closely. Claire's hands were shaking, the first time Ethan had seen her truly rattled. The FBI said the immediate threat was neutralized. They lied or they were wrong. Did you forward this to the FBI? 5 minutes after I got it. They're analyzing it now, but Ethan, 72 hours. That's not much time. You're not actually considering paying them. I'm considering keeping my daughter alive, Claire's voice cracked. They know her schedule, her favorite foods. They've been close enough to watch her. What if they... She didn't finish, didn't have to. Ethan pulled out his phone, called Kira. She answered on the first ring. The syndicate just made contact, Ethan said without preamble. Ransom demand targeting Lila Davenport. We need to move now. I'm already mobilizing. FBI wants to set up at Claire's penthouse. Full protection detail for both families. No one goes anywhere alone. That didn't stop them before. This time will be different. We're not playing defense anymore. Kira's voice was cold. They threatened a child. Gloves are off. Within 2 hours, Claire's penthouse had transformed into a command center. FBI agents occupied the guest rooms. Computers lined the dining room table. Tactical teams positioned throughout the building. And in the middle of it all, Lila played with Ben, blissfully unaware that she was the target of a criminal organization. Should we tell her? Claire asked Ethan quietly, watching their children build a fort from couch cushions. Tell an 8-year-old that bad people want to hurt her? What good would that do? She has a right to know she's in danger. She's a kid. Her right is to feel safe, even if it's a lie. Ethan remembered his own childhood, the constant moving, the fear, never knowing when the next eviction or disaster would hit. We protect her by handling this, not by scaring her. Claire nodded slowly. When did you get so wise about children? When I became terrified of screwing up the one I have. Detective Warren arrived at 6 with Torres and 2 FBI agents Ethan now knew as Richardson and Chen. They gathered in Claire's study, away from the children, to strategize. The email was sent from a burner device in Bulgaria, Richardson said. Impossible to trace beyond that. But the encryption is sophisticated, same signature as other syndicate communications. So we know it's legitimate, Torres added. They're serious about this. Then we give them what they want, Claire said. 20 million. I can have it wired by tomorrow. No, Kira's voice cut through. You pay once, they'll bleed you forever. Plus it funds their operations. We can't let that happen. My daughter's life is worth more than 20 million. Your daughter's life is worth everything, which is why we're not letting them anywhere near her. Kira pulled up building schematics on a tablet. They gave us 72 hours because they think that's not enough time to prepare properly. They're wrong. We locked down this building. Vary Lila's routine completely. Put decoys in place. Make them think they have an opening that's actually a trap. We tried that with Ethan. It barely worked. It worked perfectly, Kira corrected. We caught the entire enforcement cell. This time we'll catch whoever's running the operation. Cut the head off the snake. Ethan listened to them debate tactics and wondered when his life had become a crime thriller. 3 months ago, his biggest concern was finding enough change to do laundry. Now he was planning counter-operations against international criminals. What if we're thinking about this wrong? He said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. They want us scared, want us reactive. What if we go on offense instead? Meaning what? Warren asked. Meaning the people we arrested are in custody, right? Marcus and the enforcement cell. They're facing serious time. What if we use them? Offer deals in exchange for information about the leadership. Find out who's actually giving orders. Already tried, Torres said. They're more scared of the syndicate than they are of prison. No one's talking. Then we make them more scared of us. Ethan looked at Claire. You run a tech company. You have resources. Hackers, probably. People who can dig into places the FBI can't officially go. You're suggesting we commit crimes to fight criminals? Richardson frowned. That's not how this works. With respect, Agent Richardson, the way it works hasn't been keeping us safe. Ethan stood, started pacing. The syndicate operates in shadows, uses proxies and cutouts so no one can connect them to the crimes. We need to drag them into the light. Find out who they are, where they are, hit them before they hit us. That's vigilante justice, Warren said. You could go to jail. Better jail than a funeral. Ethan stopped pacing, faced them all. Look, I'm not saying we break laws. I'm saying we use every legal resource we have, and maybe bend a few rules around the edges. The syndicate is threatening a child. I'd break every rule there is to stop that. Claire stood as well, moving to stand beside Ethan. He's right. I've been playing by the rules my entire career, but these people don't have rules. If we want to beat them, we need to fight the same way they do. I can't officially condone this, Richardson said carefully, but I also can't stop you from using private resources to investigate threats to your company and family. Good. Claire pulled out her phone. I'm calling my head of IT. If anyone can dig up dirt on the syndicate, it's him. The next 48 hours were a blur of coffee and paranoia. Claire's IT team, led by a brilliant hacker named Felix, who'd spent 5 years in prison for breaking into Pentagon servers before Claire hired him, tore through every digital footprint the syndicate had left. Bank accounts in the Caymans, shell corporations in Delaware, property records in 3 countries. Slowly, painfully, they built a map of the organization. Meanwhile, Ethan coordinated physical security. Varied Lila and Ben's schedules constantly, hired private security to supplement the FBI presence, turned Claire's building into a fortress and his own apartment into a secondary bunker. Ben hated it. Dad, I want to go outside. I want to see my friends. I know, buddy. Just a few more days. You said that yesterday and the day before. Ben's eyes, Sarah's eyes, were accusing. We're prisoners. We're safe. Same thing. Ethan didn't have an answer for that because Ben was right. They were prisoners, just prisoners in a nice building with good food. Still caged. On the third night, with 12 hours left before the ransom deadline, Felix burst into the study where Ethan and Claire were reviewing security protocols. I found them. Felix's eyes were wild behind his glasses. The actual leadership. 3 people running the whole operation. He threw names and photos onto the main screen. 3 faces, 2 men, 1 woman, all of them respectable looking, all of them with legitimate business covers. Alexander Petrov, Russian oligarch, officially in oil and gas, really in everything illegal. He's the money. Felix pointed to the first face. Jennifer Marks, British, runs a private equity firm. She's the legitimacy, helps launder syndicate profits through legal investments. And this guy, he pointed to the third face, a bland-looking man in his 50s. Robert fucking Sullivan, American, lives in Connecticut, commutes to his office in Manhattan, where he runs a hedge fund. That's the day job. At night, he coordinates the syndicate's U.S. operations. Sullivan? Claire leaned forward. Robert Sullivan from Prometheus Capital? You know him? I've met him at charity galas. He donated to my Senate campaign 3 years ago. Claire looked sick. He's been to my home. Met Lila. The implications hung in the air like poison gas. Where is he now? Ethan asked. Felix typed rapidly. His calendar shows he's at his Connecticut estate. Big place in Greenwich, 40 acres, private security. Send me the address, Kira said from the doorway. No one had heard her enter. FBI can move on this. If Sullivan is really the U.S. coordinator, we can arrest him, squeeze him for information about the others. That'll take time, Ethan said. Warrants, legal process. We have 12 hours. So what are you suggesting? Kira's eyes narrowed. That we go to Connecticut and confront a crime lord without legal authority? I'm suggesting we give him a choice. Come quietly or go down hard. Show him we know everything. Make him understand that his safe life is over unless he calls off the attack on Lila. That's insane. So is waiting for him to kill a child. Ethan grabbed his jacket. I'm going. Anyone who wants to come with me can. Anyone who doesn't, I understand. Claire stood. I'm coming. Claire, no. Stay here with Lila. She needs you. She needs me to end this threat. That means confronting the man who ordered it. Claire's expression was steel. He threatened my daughter. He doesn't get to hide behind lawyers and process. He answers to me. Kira sighed. If you two get yourselves killed, I'm going to be very annoyed at the paperwork. That said, I'm in. But we do this smart. No cowboy bullshit. They left at midnight. Kira drove, a black SUV with government plates and enough weapons in the back to stage a small coup. Claire sat in the passenger seat, silent and focused. Ethan was in the back, checking the map on his phone, trying to ignore the voice in his head that said this was the stupidest thing he'd done yet, and he jumped in front of a train. Greenwich was an hour away. They made it in 45 minutes. Sullivan's estate was everything Felix had described. Stone walls, iron gates, security cameras everywhere. The American dream built on blood money. How do we get in? Claire asked. We ring the doorbell. Kira pulled up to the gate, rolled down her window, pressed the intercom button. A voice crackled through. State your business. Tell Mr. Sullivan that Claire Davenport and Federal Security are here to discuss his business arrangements with the syndicate. He has 2 minutes to let us in, or we're calling the FBI and CNN. His choice. Silence. Then, wait there. 3 minutes later, not 2, because men like Sullivan didn't follow other people's deadlines, the gates swung open. They drove up a long driveway lined with trees. The house was massive, colonial style, columns, the kind of place that screamed old money and older secrets. Sullivan waited at the front door wearing a silk bathrobe and an expression of mild annoyance. 2 security guards flanked him, large men with the look of ex-military. Ms. Davenport, this is quite a surprise. Sullivan's voice was smooth, educated, the voice of someone who'd never been told no. What brings you to my home at this ungodly hour? You threatened my daughter. Claire's voice was ice. You and your syndicate friends. The ransom email. The surveillance. All of it. I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about. We have everything, Kira said, stepping forward. Financial records linking you to known syndicate operations. Communications between your shell companies and Petrov's money laundering network. Enough evidence to put you away for 30 years. That's quite an accusation. I assume you have warrants, probable cause. Or did you just break into my property making wild claims? Ethan had heard enough. He stepped past Kira, moving close enough to Sullivan that the guards tensed. Here's what's going to happen, Ethan said quietly. You're going to call off whatever you've got planned for Lila Davenport. You're going to dissolve your relationship with the syndicate, and you're going to disappear from our lives completely. Sullivan actually smiled. Or what? You'll jump in front of another train? You're the hero from the subway, aren't you? I've seen the videos. Very impressive. But this isn't a subway platform, Mr. Cole. This is my home, my territory. You have no power here. I have evidence of your crimes. I have connections to the FBI. I have a very motivated CEO who will dedicate every resource she has to destroying you. Ethan's voice stayed level. But more than that, I have nothing left to lose. You threaten my son, Claire's daughter, any child anywhere, I'll burn your entire world down. I don't care about laws or consequences. I care about keeping kids safe from men like you. For the first time, Sullivan's smile faltered. You're threatening me? In my own home? I'm promising you. Ethan didn't blink. Call it off, all of it. Or we release everything we've found to the FBI, the SEC, and every news organization in the country. You'll be toxic. Your business partners will run. Your political connections will evaporate. You'll spend the rest of your life in a cell or on the run. Your choice. Sullivan studied Ethan for a long moment. Whatever he saw there made him take a step back. You're serious. As a heart attack. And if I call it off, what happens to me? You disappear, Claire said. Quietly. Sell your assets. Move somewhere with no extradition treaty. We keep the evidence as insurance. You stay gone, you stay safe. You ever come back, we destroy you. That's not much of a deal. It's the only deal you're getting. Claire's voice was hard. Take it or leave it, but decide now because in 10 minutes I'm making calls you can't take back. Sullivan looked at his guards. at Kira's hand resting casually near her weapon, at Ethan's face, which promised violence if necessary. He was a smart man, smart enough to know when he'd lost. Fine. The word came out like broken glass. I'll make calls. The threat against your daughter is rescinded. The syndicate will leave you alone. Not good enough, Ethan said. You're going to provide evidence against Petrov and Marks. Help the FBI take them down. That's the price for your freedom. You're asking me to betray them? They'll kill me. Then you better disappear really well. Ethan had no sympathy. You threatened a child. This is you getting off easy. Sullivan's face went pale, then red, but he nodded. I'll cooperate. Provide everything I have, but then I'm gone, and you never contact me again. Deal. Claire pulled out her phone. I'm calling the FBI now. You're going to repeat everything you just told us, on record. Then you're going to sign an affidavit. Then you're going to get on a plane and vanish. If I ever see or hear from you again, the deal's off and you're done. They sat in Sullivan's study for 3 hours while he made calls and provided evidence and signed papers that would destroy 2/3 of the syndicate's leadership. By sunrise, Petrov and Marks were being arrested in Moscow and London, respectively. The organization that had terrorized them was collapsing. In the car on the way back to New York, Claire finally allowed herself to shake. We actually did it, she said. We beat them. We scared one middle manager into flipping, Kira corrected. But yes, that was incredibly stupid and incredibly effective. Ethan leaned his head back against the seat, exhaustion crashing over him. How much trouble are we in? Legally, I mean. Depends on whether Sullivan decides to lawyer up and claim coercion. Kira shrugged. But given that he's about to flee the country, I'm guessing he'll keep his mouth shut. And the FBI is okay with how we handled this? The FBI is thrilled to have evidence against 2 major international criminals. They're not asking too many questions about how we obtained it. Kira smiled. Plausible deniability. It's a beautiful thing. When they arrived back at Claire's penthouse, the sun was rising over Central Park. Inside, Ben and Lila were eating breakfast, still guarded, still safe. They looked up when the adults entered. Did you catch the bad guys? Ben asked. We did, buddy. Ethan pulled his son into a hug. It's over. We're safe. Really safe? Or safe like last time where more bad guys showed up? Really safe. I promise. This time, he meant it. The next few weeks were a strange kind of peace. The FBI arrested 17 more syndicate members based on Sullivan's evidence. The organization imploded, its leadership scattered or imprisoned. And slowly, life returned to something approaching normal. Ethan settled into his role as Vice President of Security. It was overwhelming at first, executive meetings, board presentations, managing a department of 30 people. But he learned, asked questions, relied on his team, and gradually, people stopped seeing him as the subway hero who got lucky and started seeing him as someone who knew what he was doing. Ben thrived. His grades improved. He made the soccer team, stopped having nightmares about losing Ethan like he'd lost Sarah. The apartment felt like a home now, not just a temporary shelter. And Claire became more than just his boss. Became a friend. Someone who understood what it meant to fight for your child, to make impossible choices, to survive despite everything. They had dinner together sometimes, just the 4 of them, Claire and Lila, Ethan and Ben. Lila and Ben acted like siblings, bickering and laughing in equal measure, and Ethan found himself thinking that maybe, possibly, this could be a different kind of family, not a replacement for what he'd lost with Sarah, but something new, something good. One Saturday evening, after the kids had fallen asleep watching a movie, Claire joined Ethan on the balcony overlooking the park. Penny for your thoughts? Ethan smiled. Just thinking about how weird life is. 3 months ago, I was getting evicted. Now I'm standing on a penthouse balcony with a 6-figure salary and my kids asleep on a couch that costs more than my first apartment. Weird good or weird bad? Weird terrifying, like I'm waiting for someone to realize they made a mistake and take it all away. Claire was quiet for a moment. You know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who makes decisions, who acts when others freeze. That's rare, Ethan. Most people spend their whole lives waiting for permission to be brave. You just are. I jumped in front of a train. That's not brave. That's stupid. It's both, and that's what makes it extraordinary. She turned to face him. You saved my daughter, changed my company, helped bring down a criminal organization. At some point, you need to accept that you deserve the life you have now. And if I can't, if part of me still feels like the broke guy sleeping on a floor, then you fake it until you believe it. That's what I did. Claire smiled. You think I grew up with money? My dad was a janitor. My mom cleaned houses. I built this company from nothing, and every day I still feel like someone's going to figure out I don't belong. But I show up anyway, and so do you. That's what matters. Ethan looked out at the city, its lights stretching to the horizon. Somewhere down there, people were struggling like he'd struggled, sleeping in cars, skipping meals, wondering if tomorrow would finally break them. He couldn't help all of them, but maybe he could help some. I want to do something, he said suddenly, with the money, with the position. I want to help people who were like me. Like you how? Like desperate. One bad break from disaster. People who need a chance but never get one because they don't have the right credentials or connections. Ethan turned to Claire. Could we start a program? At Davenport. Hire people from homeless shelters, former convicts, anyone who's willing to work but can't get a foot in the door. Claire considered this. It would be controversial. The board would fight it. So we fight back. Use some of that resource you keep talking about. It would cost money, time, energy. Everything worth doing costs something. Ethan met her eyes. I got lucky. Someone gave me a chance when I didn't deserve it. Maybe we can be that someone for other people. Claire smiled, a real smile, not the corporate mask she wore in meetings. You know what? Let's do it. I'll present it to the board. Call it the Second Chance Initiative. Make the business case that hiring motivated people is good for the bottom line. And if they say no, then I'll do it anyway. Being CEO has some perks. She held out her hand. Partners? Ethan shook it. Partners. Inside, Ben stirred on the couch, calling out sleepily for Ethan. He went to his son, carried him to the guest room they'd started keeping ready, tucked him in beside Mr. Elephant. Love you, Dad, Ben mumbled. Love you too, buddy. As Ethan stood in the doorway watching his son sleep, he thought about the path that had led them here. The train platform, the jump, the arrests and threats and near-death experiences. All of it had been terrifying. All of it had been worth it, because Ben was safe, happy, building a life that had possibility instead of just survival. And Ethan was building something too, not just a career, but a purpose, a way to take the pain of his past and transform it into help for others. Coal men don't quit, Sarah used to say. Ethan hadn't quit, wouldn't quit. Not when there was still work to do, still people to help, still kids who needed someone to jump when everyone else froze. He closed the door softly and went back to the living room where Claire was cleaning up popcorn bowls and remote controls. Thank you, he said. For what? For seeing me, for giving me a chance, for trusting me with your daughter and your company and your life. Claire set down the bowl she was holding. Ethan, you saved my daughter. I should be thanking you every day for the rest of my life. You gave me back mine. I'd say we're even. They stood in the comfortable silence of people who'd been through hell together and survived. And Ethan realized that this moment, this peace, this feeling of belonging, was what he'd been fighting for all along. Not money, not status, just the simple human need to matter to someone, to be seen, to be valued. He'd found that now. Against all odds, despite everything, he'd found it, and he wasn't letting go. The Second Chance Initiative launched 3 months later on a crisp February morning that carried the promise of snow. Ethan stood in the renovated warehouse space in Brooklyn, former industrial building transformed into training center, and watched the first class of recruits file in. 15 people. 15 stories of hardship and survival. Former homeless, ex-convicts, recovering addicts, single parents who'd slipped through every crack society had. They looked at Ethan with a mixture of hope and suspicion, the way people do when they've been disappointed too many times to trust easily. Good morning, Ethan began, and his voice echoed in the large space. My name is Ethan Cole. 3 months ago, I was homeless, getting evicted. standing on a subway platform with my 7-year-old son and $4 in my pocket, trying to figure out how we'd eat that night. The suspicion in their eyes shifted to curiosity. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that hard work is all you need. That's garbage. I worked hard my entire life and still ended up sleeping on a floor with an eviction notice on my door. What changed for me was someone giving me a chance. One person who saw past my circumstances and decided I was worth the risk. Ethan gestured around the room. That's what this program is. We're giving you the same chance. Training in security systems, IT basics, facility management, real skills that lead to real jobs. And when you finish, you'll have a position waiting at Davenport Innovations. Full salary, benefits, a future. A woman in the back row raised her hand. She looked to be in her 40s with tired eyes and hands that had seen hard labor. What's the catch? Her voice was rough. Nobody does something like this for free. The catch is you have to show up, do the work. Stay clean if substances are your issue. Stay out of trouble if that's been your pattern. We're giving you a chance, but you have to take it. Nobody can do that part for you. And if we mess up, then we help you try again. This isn't one strike and you're out. This is as many chances as it takes, as long as you keep trying. Ethan thought of all the times he'd failed, all the jobs he'd lost, all the times he'd wanted to quit. I'm not interested in perfection. I'm interested in effort. Over the next few weeks, Ethan split his time between his VP responsibilities and the training program. It was exhausting. Some days he left the office at 6, headed to Brooklyn, and didn't get home until midnight. Ben complained about seeing less of his father. Claire worried he was burning out. But Ethan couldn't stop, because he saw himself in every recruit. In Marcus, not the spy, different Marcus, a former addict trying to rebuild his life after 5 years in prison. In Jennifer, the single mother who'd been living in her car until last month. In David, the veteran with PTSD who couldn't hold down a job because his triggers made him unreliable. They were all him. All versions of who he'd been. Who he could still be if luck shifted. You're going to kill yourself, Jay said one evening, finding Ethan asleep at his desk at 9 p.m. When's the last time you went home before midnight? I go home. Ethan rubbed his eyes. Sometimes. Boss, I say this with love. You need to delegate. You've got a whole department. Let us handle some of this. You don't understand. These people need you alive and functional, not burned out and useless. Jay sat on the edge of the desk. Look, what you're doing with the program is amazing, but you can't save everyone. You can barely save yourself. I have to try. Why? What are you trying to prove? The question hit harder than it should have. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. That it meant something, he finally said. That Sarah's death and Ben's suffering and all those years of barely surviving weren't just random bad luck. That I can take all that pain and make it mean something by helping people who are where I was. Jay's expression softened. It already meant something. You survived. You kept your son safe. You became someone who jumps in front of trains to save little girls. That's not nothing, Ethan. It's not enough. It never will be if you keep moving the goalposts. Jay stood. Go home. Hug your kid. Sleep. The program will still be here tomorrow. Ethan did go home. Found Ben asleep on the couch again, waiting up for him again. The guilt was a physical weight. He'd spent so much energy saving everyone else that he was neglecting the one person who needed him most. He carried Ben to bed, tucked him in, and was about to leave when Ben's eyes opened. Dad? Hey, buddy, sorry I'm late again. It's okay. But Ben's voice said it wasn't. Are you going to leave? The question froze Ethan's blood. What? No, why would you think that? You're never here anymore. Just like Mom before she... Ben couldn't finish, didn't have to. Ethan sat on the edge of the bed, heart breaking. Ben, listen to me. I'm not going anywhere, ever. I promise. You promised Mom wouldn't leave either. That was different. That was an accident. This, me working late, that's just me being stupid and not managing my time well. But I'm here. I'm always going to be here. Then why does it feel like you're leaving? Ethan had no answer for that. So he did the only thing he could. He lay down next to his son, held him close, and stayed there until they both fell asleep. The next morning, Ethan called Claire before his first meeting. I need to cut back my hours at the training center. I'm neglecting Ben. Okay. No argument, no pushback, just immediate understanding. What do you need? Someone to run the day-to-day. I'll still oversee the program, but I can't be there every night. I'll find someone. Actually, Claire paused. What about Marcus? The good Marcus. From the program. He's excelling, right? Maybe give him a shot at managing the others. He knows what they're going through. It was a good idea. A great idea. Why hadn't Ethan thought of it? Because you're so busy trying to save everyone that you forget other people can help, his inner voice said. It sounded a lot like Sarah. That afternoon, Ethan offered Marcus the position of program coordinator. Marcus stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. You want me to manage people? I've been out of prison for 6 months. And you've been clean for 8. You show up early every day. Help the others when they're struggling. You've got leadership skills you don't even realize. Ethan leaned forward. I need someone who understands what these people are facing, who can relate, who won't give up on them when they stumble. That's you. What if I screw it up? Then we'll figure it out together. That's how this works. Marcus took the job, and Ethan started coming home at reasonable hours, had dinner with Ben, helped with homework, went to soccer games, slowly rebuilt the connection he'd almost lost in his drive to help everyone else. But the universe, it seemed, wasn't done testing him. The call came on a Thursday in March. Detective Warren, her voice tight with an emotion Ethan couldn't identify. Ethan, we have a situation. Can you come to the precinct? What kind of situation? The kind I can't discuss on the phone. Bring Claire if you can. You're both going to want to hear this. They met at the precinct an hour later. Warren led them to the same conference room where Ethan had first been interrogated after the subway rescue. It felt like a lifetime ago. Torres was there. Richardson. And a man Ethan didn't recognize. Early 60s, expensive suit, the bearing of someone important. Ms. Davenport, Mr. Cole, this is Assistant Director Matthews from the FBI. Warren gestured to the stranger. He has some information about the syndicate case. Matthews didn't waste time on pleasantries. We've been analyzing the evidence Robert Sullivan provided. His testimony helped us dismantle most of the syndicate's operations, but in the process, we discovered something unexpected. He pulled up a photo on the screen, a young woman, maybe 25, with dark hair and scared eyes. This is Natasha Volkov. She's Alexander Petrov's niece. She was working as a low-level courier for the syndicate. When we arrested Petrov, she disappeared. We assumed she fled the country. Matthew's expression was grim. We were wrong. She's here in New York, and 3 days ago she reached out to us through a lawyer. She wants to turn state's evidence against her uncle, provide information about operations we don't know about, in exchange for witness protection. That's good, right? Claire asked. More evidence against Petrov? It would be, except she has a condition. Matthews looked directly at Ethan. She'll only speak to you, no one else. She says she trusts you because of what you did on the subway platform. Says anyone who'd risk their life for a stranger can't be bought by the syndicate. Ethan blinked. She wants to talk to me. Why? I'm not FBI. I'm not law enforcement at all. Because you're a hero. At least to her. Matthews pulled up more photos. Surveillance shots of Natasha in various locations around the city. She's been following you. Watching. Trying to decide if she could trust you. Apparently she's decided yes, but only you. She won't meet with agents, won't talk to prosecutors, just you. This is insane. This is an opportunity. Richardson leaned forward. Natasha has information about syndicate operations in Eastern Europe. Human trafficking, arms dealing, things way beyond corporate espionage. If we can get her testimony, we can take down networks that have been operating for decades. So, send me in, I'll talk to her. It's not that simple. Matthews's jaw tightened. Natasha is paranoid, believes the syndicate has people everywhere. She won't meet anywhere official. She's chosen a location, wants you to come alone. No backup, no wire, no weapons. Just you and her, in a public place where she can see you're not setting her up. Absolutely not. Claire's voice was sharp. That's a trap. Has to be. We don't think so. Torres pulled up more surveillance. We've been watching her. She's genuinely scared, genuinely wants out. But she's also genuinely paranoid. If we spook her, she'll run. We'll lose her and all the intelligence she has. Where does she want to meet? Ethan asked. Matthews met his eyes. The Morrison Street subway platform. Where you saved Lila. She says it's symbolic. Proof that you care more about saving people than your own safety. The subway platform. The place where everything had started. Of course it would come full circle there. When? Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. She'll be waiting at the north end of the platform. You approach her, talk to her, convince her to come with you to a safe location where we can properly debrief her. She agrees, we protect her, we get the testimony. Everyone wins. Except if it's a trap, Claire repeated. Then Ethan gets killed on the same platform where he almost died before. We'll have agents nearby, Richardson said. Not close enough to scare her off, but close enough to intervene if something goes wrong. Ethan will be as safe as we can make him. As safe as we can make him isn't very safe. Claire looked at Ethan. You don't have to do this. Let the FBI handle it. They can't. She won't talk to them. Ethan stood, started pacing. Look, I don't love this plan. It feels like every bad decision I've made rolled into one. But if this woman has information that can stop human trafficking, arms dealing, that's bigger than me being uncomfortable. It's bigger than you being dead, too. I won't be dead. I'll be careful. I'll have backup nearby. And I'll be doing what I apparently do best, jumping into dangerous situations to help people. He tried for a smile. It probably didn't work. Besides, what's the worst that could happen? Don't! Claire's voice was hard. Don't joke about this. Don't pretend it's not terrifying. I'm not pretending. I'm terrified, but I'm going anyway. They argued for another hour. Claire tried every angle to talk him out of it. But in the end, Ethan's decision was made. He'd meet Natasha Volkov. He'd hear what she had to say. He'd try to save one more person who needed saving. That night, he had the conversation he'd been dreading. Sat Ben down after dinner and explained that he had to do something dangerous tomorrow. Didn't sugarcoat it. Didn't lie. Are you going to die? Ben asked, his voice small. I'm going to try very hard not to. That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I have. Ethan pulled his son close. Ben, sometimes people need help. And sometimes the only person who can help is me. I don't want to leave you. I don't want to risk not coming home. But I can't look at myself in the mirror if I don't try. Mom tried to help people too. She was going to be a nurse, then she died. I know, and I know that's terrifying. But, buddy, we can't stop living because we're afraid of dying. Your mom taught me that. She'd want me to do this. She'd want you to stay safe. She'd want me to be the kind of man who jumps when people are falling. Even if it's scary, especially if it's scary. Ethan took a breath. If something happens tomorrow, if I don't come back, I need you to remember something. You are loved. By me. By Claire and Lila. By so many people. You're going to be okay. Not right away, but eventually. Dad, stop. And I need you to keep being brave. Keep being kind. Keep being the amazing kid you are. That's how you honor my memory. Not by falling apart, but by living a life that makes me proud. Can you do that? Ben was crying now. I don't want to do that. I want you to come home. Then I'll come home. I'll try my absolute hardest to come home. They held each other for a long time. And when Ethan finally tucked Ben into bed, he stood in the doorway memorizing his son's face, just in case. The next evening arrived with the weight of inevitability. Ethan put on comfortable clothes, jeans, a jacket, boots good for running if necessary. No wire, no weapon, no phone. Just him and whatever words he could find to convince a terrified woman to trust the system that had probably failed her 100 times. Claire met him at Davenport Tower before he left. She looked like she hadn't slept. I hate this, she said. I know. If you die, I'm going to kill you. That's fair. She hugged him suddenly, fierce and desperate. You changed my life, Ethan Cole. You saved my daughter. You made me remember what it means to be brave. Don't you dare die on that platform. I don't plan to. Plans don't matter. Promise me you'll come back. I can't promise that. Then promise me you'll try. That I can do. He took the subway to Morrison Street. The same route he'd taken 3 months ago with Ben. The same platform where everything had changed. It looked exactly the same: fluorescent lights, dirty tile, the yellow warning line. But it felt different, heavier, like the platform knew what was coming. Ethan checked his watch. 6:58, 2 minutes. FBI agents were positioned throughout the station. He couldn't see them, but he knew they were there. Torres in a newsstand. Richardson dressed as a homeless man. Others scattered through the crowd, watching, waiting. The platform filled with evening commuters. People heading home from work, from school, from lives that didn't involve meeting paranoid witnesses about international crime syndicates. 7 p.m. At the north end of the platform, a young woman appeared, dark hair under a baseball cap, oversized jacket. She looked like she wanted to disappear. Her eyes found Ethan's across the crowd. Natasha Volkov. Ethan walked toward her slowly, non-threatening, hands visible, smile genuine. "Natasha." She nodded. Didn't speak. Her eyes darted around constantly, checking faces, looking for threats. "Thank you for trusting me," Ethan said quietly. "I know that's hard." "You jumped." Her accent was thick, Russian. "Everyone else stood still, but you jumped. Why?" "Because she was falling. Someone had to." "That's stupid. You could have died." "Yeah, but I didn't." Natasha studied him. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her because she took a step closer. "I have information about my uncle, about the syndicate, about things they do. Bad things. I know. The FBI wants to hear it. They can protect you. FBI is corrupt. Syndicate has people everywhere, police, government. They will find me. Not if we do this right. Not if you let us help you." Ethan kept his voice steady, calm. "Natasha, I'm not going to lie to you. Witness protection isn't perfect, but it's better than running, better than looking over your shoulder forever. You promise I'll be safe? I promise we'll do everything we can to keep you safe. That's the best anyone can promise." She was wavering. Ethan could see it, the desperate hope fighting with learned distrust. Then her eyes went wide. "Get down!" She shoved Ethan hard. He stumbled backward as gunfire erupted. Commuters screamed. People scattered. And Natasha, brave, terrified Natasha, took 3 bullets meant for Ethan. She dropped. Ethan's training kicked in. He dragged her behind a support column as more shots rang out. FBI agents swarmed from hiding spots. Someone was shouting into a radio. Someone else returned fire. Natasha was bleeding, a lot. Her eyes found Ethan's. "Sorry," she whispered. "They followed me. I tried. So careful." "Don't talk. Save your strength." Ethan pressed his hands against the worst wound, trying to stop the bleeding. "Help is coming. You're going to be okay." "Always a hero." She smiled weakly. "Even when stupid." "Yeah, well, stupid is kind of my thing." The gunfire stopped. FBI agents had the shooter, just one, looked like syndicate, definitely professional. Torres appeared beside Ethan, already calling for paramedics. "She's losing a lot of blood." "I know. Where the hell is the ambulance?" Natasha's hand found Ethan's, squeezed weakly. "Thank you," she breathed, "for trying. You're not dying. Don't you dare die. Tell FBI. Look in Brighton Beach, storage unit number 247. Evidence there. Everything they need. You can tell them yourself when you wake up. If I don't," her eyes were closing, "tell them I tried to be brave, like you." "You are brave. You saved my life. That's pretty damn brave." But she was unconscious now, and the blood wasn't stopping, and Ethan had been in enough bad situations to know what death looked like when it was winning. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics took over. They loaded Natasha onto a stretcher, started IVs, worked with desperate efficiency. But Ethan could see their expressions, could read the looks they exchanged. She didn't make it to the hospital. Later, after the statements and the paperwork and the endless questions, Ethan sat in the precinct with his head in his hands. Claire had arrived at some point. She sat beside him, silent presence, not trying to fix it because it couldn't be fixed. "She saved my life," Ethan said. "She saw the shooter before I did, pushed me out of the way." "I know." "She's dead because of me." "She's dead because the syndicate is evil. That's not on you. Much feels like it is. Ethan looked up. His eyes were dry but hollow. Everyone I try to help ends up hurt. Marcus got arrested. You got shot at. Now Natasha's dead. Maybe I should stop trying to save people. Maybe you should accept that you can't save everyone. Claire's voice was gentle. But that doesn't mean you stop trying. Natasha knew the risks. She reached out anyway. She chose to be brave. That's not your fault. She gave me information. Storage unit in Brighton Beach. Said there's evidence there. Then we'll follow up. We'll make sure her death meant something. Claire took his hand. That's how we honor her. Not by giving up. By finishing what she started. The FBI raided the storage unit the next day. Found exactly what Natasha had described. Documents, hard drives, recordings. Evidence of syndicate operations spanning 2 decades. Human trafficking routes. Arms deals. Money laundering. Enough to bring down the entire organization, not just pieces of it. Natasha's final gift would save thousands of people. But it didn't make Ethan feel better. He took a week off work, spent it with Ben. They went to the park. Played video games. Had long talks about what it means to try to help people and fail. Ben, wise beyond his years, asked the question Ethan had been avoiding. Do you wish you never jumped that day on the subway? Ethan thought about it. Really thought about it. No, he finally said, because Lila is alive. Because I have this life now. Because I got to help at least some people, even if I couldn't help everyone. The pain is worth it for that. Even though it hurts? Especially because it hurts. The things worth doing usually do. When Ethan returned to work, he found that the Second Chance initiative had grown. 10 more recruits. 2 more companies wanting to start similar programs. Marcus was thriving as coordinator. Several graduates had already moved into permanent positions at Davenport. You started something, Jay told him. Something bigger than you realize. Maybe. But Ethan still saw Natasha's face in his dreams. Still heard her last words. Still felt the weight of being unable to save her. 3 months later, on a warm June evening, Davenport Innovations held a ceremony. They were naming the training center after Natasha Volkov, a permanent reminder of the cost of courage, and a promise that her sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. Ethan gave the speech, talked about what it means to be brave, to risk everything for strangers, to die so others can live. His voice broke twice. Claire stood beside him, steady presence, reminding him he wasn't alone. After the ceremony, as people mingled and celebrated, Ben tugged Ethan's sleeve. Dad, look! He pointed to the entrance where someone Ethan never expected to see was walking in. Sarah's parents. Ben's grandparents. They'd maintained civil distance for years, occasional supervised visits, but nothing more. Sarah's mother, Patricia, approached slowly. Her eyes were red. Ethan, can we talk? They stepped outside. The evening air was cool, comfortable. We've been following the news, Patricia said. Everything you've done, the subway, the company, this program. We've been watching. Okay? Ethan wasn't sure where this was going. We were wrong. The words came out difficult, painful. When Sarah died, we blamed you. Thought you couldn't take care of Ben. We were wrong. You've given him a better life than we ever could have, and you've become... She stopped, started again. You've become the man Sarah always knew you could be. Ethan's throat was tight. I'm still figuring it out. Every day. But you keep trying. That's what matters. Patricia looked toward the building where Ben was playing with Lila. We'd like to be part of his life, real part, not just occasional visits. If you'll let us. Sarah would have wanted that. Ethan knew it without question. Yeah, he said. I'd like that too. That night, after everyone left and the building was quiet, Ethan stood alone in the training center that bore Natasha's name. He thought about the chain of events that had started on a subway platform. One jump. One moment of action instead of freezing. And look what had cascaded from it. A saved child. A career. A program helping hundreds. A criminal organization dismantled. Lives changed, including his own. Not all changes were good. Natasha was still dead, the trauma was still real, the nightmares still came. But alongside the pain was growth, purpose. a reason to wake up each morning that went beyond mere survival. His phone buzzed. A text from Claire. "Dinner this weekend? The four of us? Ben wants to teach Lila chess. It'll be a disaster, but entertaining." Ethan smiled, texted back, "We'll be there." As he walked out of the building, Ethan passed a mirror, stopped, looked at his reflection. The man staring back was different from the one who'd stood on that platform 3 months ago. Stronger, more certain, still flawed, still figuring it out. But no longer just surviving, living, actually living. His phone rang. Unknown number. Ethan almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Ethan Cole?" "Yeah?" "This is Maya Rodriguez. You don't know me, but I just got accepted into your second chance program. I've been homeless for 2 years, lost my kids to the system, lost everything. Your program, it's the first hope I've had in forever. I just wanted to say thank you for giving people like me a chance." Ethan's eyes stung. "You don't need to thank me. Just show up, do the work, take the chance. That's all I ask." "I will. I promise. I won't let you down." After she hung up, Ethan stood on the sidewalk and let himself feel it. All of it. The grief for Natasha, the joy for Maya, the exhaustion and hope and fear and love, all mixed together in a mess of human emotion that meant he was alive. Really alive. He thought about Sarah, about what she'd say if she could see him now. She'd probably roll her eyes at the fancy title, tease him about the nice apartment, but then she'd hug him fierce and whisper that she was proud, that he'd done exactly what she always knew he would, turned pain into purpose, turned tragedy into triumph. "Cole men don't quit," she used to say. Ethan hadn't quit, and he wasn't going to start now. There were still people falling, still people who needed someone to jump. And Ethan Cole, former mechanic, current vice president, permanent hero, whether he wanted the title or not, would keep jumping, again and again and again, because that's what heroes do. Not because they're fearless, but because they're afraid and they jump anyway. And in the jumping, in the action, in the moment of choosing courage over comfort, they save more than just the person falling. They save themselves. Ethan walked home through streets that no longer felt threatening, past buildings that had once seemed like monuments to his failure, but now just looked like the city. His city, the place where he'd hit bottom and somehow found a way to climb back up. When he opened the door to his apartment, Ben looked up from his homework and smiled. "Hey, Dad, you okay?" "Yeah, buddy." Ethan dropped his bag, ruffled his son's hair. "I'm okay. We're okay." "Good. Can you help me with my math? I don't understand fractions." "Sure. Let me just order us some dinner first. Pizza, okay? Extra cheese? Is there any other kind?" They spent the evening on the couch, working through math problems and eating pizza and being together. Simple. Normal. The kind of normal that Ethan had thought he'd lost forever. But here it was. Hard-won. Precious. Real. Later, after Ben was asleep, Ethan stood at the window one last time. The city lights stretched to infinity, each one representing a person with their own struggles and dreams and moments of decision. Somewhere out there, someone was standing on their own metaphorical platform, trying to decide whether to jump or freeze. Ethan hoped they jumped. Because in the jumping, in the moment of wild courage, everything was possible. Even for a broke single father with nothing left to lose, especially for him. The train of his life had almost run him over. Instead, he'd grabbed it, held on, rode it to places he never imagined possible. And the journey was just beginning. Ethan smiled, turned away from the window, and went to check on his son one more time. Ben was sprawled across his bed, Mr. Elephant clutched tight, dreaming dreams that were finally safe. Everything Ethan had done, every jump, every risk, every moment of terror had been for this. For these quiet nights when Ben slept peacefully and tomorrow held promise instead of dread. Worth it. All of it. Even the parts that hurt. Ethan turned off the light, closed the door gently, and whispered into the darkness, "Thank you, Sarah, for teaching me to jump." And somewhere in the space between memory and hope, he could almost hear her whisper back, "You did good, Ethan Cole. You did real good." He had.